Good evening. I'd like to bring the Select Board meeting of Monday, April 27th to session. We are going to, we're starting at 6 tonight, right here in the Select Board meeting room. Our meeting is being televised and recorded to be shown later as well. And we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd all rise and remain standing. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stand here tonight. I'd like you to call to mind our veterans and the service members protecting our shores here and abroad. Thank you. All right, we don't have a lot on the agenda, but we have some very meaty items. So we're going to start with our first one, which is highlighting a zoning bylaw change, which is going to be presented at town meeting in June. And I welcome both Dan Giosa and, hang on, Laurie Ann Miller. It would come to me.
I'm bad with names. I'm glad someone else is.
Laurie Ann Miller from the Planning Board here tonight to walk us through these changes. In our packet, can be found on pages 3 through 52.
Through 1,000, yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, meaty. All right, so Dan, what started, what came up that the Planning Board thought they needed to deal with this?
Sure. For the record, Daniel Giosa,
Yes.
Planning Director here for the town of Dartmouth. So we started the process back last summer. Had some workshops with some department heads, members of the Planning Board to highlight some items in the site plan review bylaw that we felt needed updating. This bylaw was originally approved in 2016, so we're looking at about 10 years. So obviously some time to get some approval. So some of the things right off the top of the bat, filing requirements. The applications now go through the portal, so we had to update language to reflect that. Some of the off-street parking requirements we looked at. There were a few projects that came in, parking didn't really make a lot of sense on the requirements, so we looked at industry standards, current trends, different towns, specifically a lot of towns along the Route 6 corridor with similar commercial areas in town, so we looked at that, looking to update those. The town has a new stormwater bylaw. DPW also has stormwater regs, so we want to make sure we matched up well with those regs for our site plan review. Looking through it, after having town council review our original draft, some of the things that came up was how we were handling certain things from a regulatory standpoint. So we looked into how we could handle that better. So what you have in your packet, we have the red line from the full Article 24 bylaw. We have our Article 24 as it's presented that was voted on to recommend by the Planning Board on April 6th. And then also in there, like I said, after discussions with town council on the preferred method for granting relief, how we handle some of the filing requirements, came up with the option to have the site plan review rules and regulations to be adopted by the Planning Board. So those are the major changes we're looking at. In regards to the things going into the site plan regulations, so one of the things we hear a lot is just the time involved in getting through the whole process. So for a site plan review, you'll see this is a draft that you have before you. I would say it's probably close to 95% done. There's still a few things we're looking to finalize. Town council is working on getting the warrant language. Then after that, we will fine tune the regulations. But you'll see on the first page, one thing we worked on, an example site plan that'll be online. So that way as a visual aid as opposed to just reading regulations. Applicants, especially out-of-town applicants that are coming in, can look at those and see specifically what we're looking for. We're having more pre-filing meetings with DPW. I have 2 meetings tomorrow with the DPW for site plans that'll be coming in the next few weeks. So just trying to help the process along, give applicants, you'll see in there, it gives us a 30-day window to have all the departments contact us, provide feedback before they come to the board. So hopefully by the time they come to the board, the planning board can just give their comments, and we're looking at a meeting or 2 at the most, rather than something that's gonna take longer, and everything can kind of be addressed in that process. So that's the main points of what we're looking at here. If any of the boards have any specific questions on that, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
Mr. O'Neill?
Dan, what specific departments did you meet with prior to?
Building department, conservation, DPW. Is it anybody?
Legal.
Yeah, town council. We reviewed them with the select board's office as well. Conservation was there, Mr. Garrett.
Were there any points brought up by any of the either department heads or board members that were flagged as a problem for you, or?
I think it was just more, like I said, trying to codify with the other regulations, trying to make sure everybody's on the same page, just trying to make the process smoother for applicants and engineers, and still provide the town with the same level of detail we want to see in our site plans.
One of the things that I appreciate you looking into is is from the applicant's point of view, what the process is, right? Are they going to the planning board? Are they going to the CVA?
Yes.
You know, years ago, we heard of trying to get around one process to get to the other.
Right.
And play the best possible process first.
Yeah, so one of the items that'll be in the site plan rules and regulations is the preliminary plan. We have concept review meetings that we're having, so that allows applicants to come before they even file anything. They can provide as little or as much detail as they want. Obviously, the more detail, the more feedback all the boards can give them. That way, if there are obstacles, they know them from day one before they start spending some real money into designs and other aspects of the construction. Get the feedback. Like I said, we've done Zoom meetings, we've done in-person meetings to try to get them to the spot, so when they're ready to file, they're pretty close to what the board's going to be looking for.
And I think it's important that the public know that you guys are available to do that. You know, there are certain applicants that don't even know that process can happen.
Yep.
And the goal, obviously, is to try and shrink down the amount of time, energy, and money that it costs to bring these applications through the process, but still allow all the departments their time with that application, right? So the public needs to know that you have these preliminary sit-downs with department heads involved. They called
Concept review meetings.
concept review meetings. So
We just changed.
And
that
that's a
name
new
last-
term.
Yeah, that's a new term we
you threw me
changed
with
last
that one.
year.
Was it the other one? I
It
can't
used to be
remember.
department head meetings, but
Technical review,
that's something different. This is specifically what we want to do. We also use those to discuss potential bylaw changes. It gives people a chance. We have a new one that'll be coming up. All the fire chiefs are involved, public safety. It just gives everybody to be in a room to kind of be like, well, we didn't know, like you said, we didn't know you guys were contemplating this.
Right.
Gets everybody in a room, lets everybody get some preliminary feedback, and hopefully, get to the finish line quicker.
Are the concept review meetings set on a particular day and time?
Yes.
Okay, and when is that?
You're going to put me on the spot. Tuesdays, about 10 a.m.
Okay.
We can be a little flexible, but I believe it's Tuesdays,
Every other?
every other.
I just want to make sure, because having that on the books at least gives the other department heads
Yeah,
that are
we
going to
have
be
the- we have
involved
this-
a box to carve out.
Yeah, we have the schedule on our website of the days that it's scheduled. If nothing's up, we'll send something out to all the department heads to say we have
Meeting.
nothing for this meeting, or if there's anything that anybody would like to bring forward, we can still have that option open.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Dan, so as far as timeframes go, what changes are you looking to include as far as application approval periods?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, we wouldn't hold the first hearing until after 30 days from the filing. That way it gets all the departments time to give feedback. One thing I heard a lot is everybody puts things on the portal at different times. So say the Board of Health comments, the applicant sees it, says, oh, we're all set, we got the Board of Health's comments. While, the engineer might change the plans based on that, thinking they're all set, and then a week later, DPW comments or conservation comments. So this gives a window of a time to get everybody's comments. The applicant with his design team will have time to incorporate all those, and like I said before, they come to the planning board to be able to get some good feedback from all the important and relevant departments.
So that's a good point. The planning board shall not hold the meeting on the application until at least 30 days have passed from the date the application was deemed complete.
Right.
Deemed complete by the staff members of the planning board.
Right, so if there's things missing, we can get fee, we'll let the applicants know before they pay the filing fee. So the way the portal works is there's steps, and we do initial review before the fee is done. So planning staff will look at it, making sure all the requirements might not be 100% correct, but at least they have all the requirements for filing. Then we'll activate the next step, which is the payment, and then that'll start the 30-day clock. It's in there kinda in the current regs, but this makes it much clearer what the process is.
And in the process, when a department reviews the applicant, their choice is only to have a green toggle that says it's been reviewed.
They can comment.
I know they can comment, but for the person looking at it, they really need to make sure they look at those comments.
Right.
Because the green doesn't mean everything's good,
Oh.
you're good to go.
Like for me, from my standpoint, when I'm commenting, I won't put done until a little later on in the process, because also what happens is then you don't get notified of future comments. So there's, I mean,
Okay.
it's like anything else, it's a work in progress, but I think everybody in town hall is working towards getting the best product on that portal as we can get.
I know that was something that Chad was working with
Yes.
the company, and I really hope that it's something that can make it a little easier.
Yeah, so the applicant and anybody that's on there, if they have the owner or the engineer, as soon as the comment's made, everybody gets notified, as long as their step is still active. Sometimes, from a planning standpoint, if people do check it and new material comes in, we can reactivate everybody's step, so they'll get that information. So, like I said, we're getting there, I think.
Dan,
Go ahead.
another question. The planning board shall render the decision on an application within 90 days from the date the application was deemed complete? Is that right? It was
Yes.
50 before?
It was 50, it's not like for a subdivision where if it doesn't, then it's constructive approval.
Right.
So at 50 days, if we don't give an opinion, they'd have to start all over again. So this at least gives us a little more time if there are concerns, issues, to get the full 90 days.
It does say within 90 days,
Within 90
not
days.
after 90 days.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
in a perfect world, we get to that 30-day, have a meeting. Planning board obviously is going to want to comment, get some feedback. So in a perfect world, in my opinion, I'd like to try to have 2 meetings and be, at least to the dotting i's and crossing t's point of the approval.
Mr. McDonald, do you have any questions?
Looking at the red line version versus, the old version versus the new version,
Yep.
going from 24 pages down to 10, there's a whole lot of sections that are being totally eliminated. Those sections that are eliminated, are they addressed somewhere else in the
They're going to go into the rules and
rules and
regulations.
regs? So,
This, like I said, this will allow, with town council's opinions on the matter, this will allow the planning board to have a little more flexibility on some of these approvals, especially for redevelopment. the way it's written right now, redevelopment, you have to pretty much be 100% compliance with site plan review, or you got to go to ZBA for every little detail. This will allow the planning board a little flexibility. A lot of the waivers that they're given now, this just brings it into a more preferred method per our town council review.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yeah, thank you. Couple of questions. Then some of the data was on the portal, and now all of it is, or can you clarify that in terms of the application itself? Was it all in the portal?
Everything's on the portal. The regulations don't reference the portal. So somebody that's coming in, say, from out of town, that just specifically works for, say, like a big box company, they're going to look at our regulations. They're not going to understand we have the portal. So it's, I mean, they call, we walk them through the process, but this just gets it to, so somebody coming into town for the first time, now the right process will be outlined in the bylaw.
Okay, a couple others? And you were able to lean in some other towns that were doing something that was a good deal, or not much of that, or?
Not much. There was some minor tweaks to some of the number of parking required. As you know, you drive around, some of these parking lots are very empty. It's just a different time. There's a lot of online ordering. There's not a lot of, people going to the storefront. So just some minor tweaks to that. One of the big ones was the car dealership. Required a tremendous amount of parking, and you just don't have, 100 people, customers going to a car dealership. So items like that were things we looked at and compared to other towns, and also from a national standpoint from the American Planners Association guidebook.
So, and just my own further clarification, you're converting into rules and regs so that basically one of the things you'll be able to do is minimalize some of the stuff going to the ZBA because you'll take care of it beforehand.
That's the hope. There will still be things in the bylaw, like setbacks to property lines. We still want that to go to ZBA. Parking reductions, if needed, will still be a special permit. So there are still items of critical concern that we want to keep in the bylaw to make sure that those go through the proper channels, whether the ZBA or through the special permit process.
When you came in and took this job on, one of the things you told us was you're going to work on stuff like this, and this is, to me, it's a breath of fresh air. I had some personal experience with these over the years about these regulations, especially parking.
Me too.
And I think that's really a massive team effort, not only with the planning board, but also with Cody and town council to get it done. And I think it's pretty impressive and something that's going to help us out. And we need more revenue, and one of the ways to get it to be a little more friendly to commercial and business.
Right, and I think this will specifically help for redevelopment. Some of these empty storefronts and some of these smaller, you look into, somebody that's coming in to a small storefront, thinking you only have to do X, Y, and Z, and then you find out you need subsection 8 through 20.
And I mean, that's low-hanging fruit to replace these empty stores with something else because it's there. Don't have to cut any trees down and worry about this or that because it's there, and I think that's a great.
Yeah, it can have a little more common sense approach.
So I think it's great. Nice going. Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you. I'm going to jump onto the parking because one of the things I didn't see was housing complexes, and we've never had that before, but it's something that has come up several times during the 40B process about how we distinguish how many cars, parking spots we should have for housing complexes.
Yeah, so for residential uses, that doesn't apply to site plan review. This is strictly for commercial uses.
My apologies.
No problem.
However, I do feel that these complexes are more commercial than residential. But
there are, for some items, for special permits, and we have in there that we want 2 spaces per unit. So if they are coming before us for a special permit, the 40Bs don't. But there are some 55-plus residential units, and we do look for 2 spaces per. That's at the discretion of the board.
yeah,
But we look for the 2 spaces for the underlying residential district.
all right. Mr. O'Neill, you had one more?
Yeah, one more. Dan, regulatory authority. Planning board may adopt from time to time amend regulations to implement, interpret, effectuate the purpose of Article 24. Such regulations shall be effective upon passage, and no publication of the same or public hearing for the same shall be required. Probably more a question for either council or administration, how that section dovetails with the new kind of transparency clause that we put in at last town meeting for rules and regulations.
It does apply, yeah. It'll
Okay.
apply. So the charter prevails in this case, and that charter was, that charter change was passed. It'll be effective July 1st. So what I would anticipate, the initial set of rules and regulations will be adopted prior to July 1, so it would not fall under that provision of the charter. However, going forward, any amendments to their rules and regulations would fall under that charter provision.
But if this is successfully passed at town meeting on June
Second.
2nd, it goes into effect immediately.
Well, the Attorney General has to approve
Oh.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially, Dan and I have had this conversation. Dan will recommend to the planning board to adopt rules and regulations at their June meeting, because essentially what you don't want is AG approval and then no rules and regulations, right, for a bylaw that essentially relies on rules and regulations. So they'll proactively adopt those, hopefully, and then as soon as AG approval, this will be in effect, and then any future changes to those rules and regulations would have to meet the charter language.
Okay. Nate?
So on the red line version, there's a lot of stuff stricken. Is everything that's stricken going to be reflected in the rules and regulations, or what kind of changes can we anticipate between what exists currently?
Not everything. There's some items with bicycle paths, for example, that aren't in the site plan rules and regulations. If you drive around town, I don't think you're gonna find one commercial site that has bike paths in it, especially on the Route 6 Fons Corner corridor. So that's something that we eliminated parts of it. I have kind of a breakdown from the rules and regulations from the red lines where I specifically show what was eliminated, what was moved to what. I have that in my office if you wanted to see anything specific on that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if the summary already exists of what won't exist ever again unless it's passed. I think that would help people just feel comfortable with the changes that are being made, because we're essentially going from a scenario where it would require town meeting approval to make a modification to the bylaw to a situation where it requires just planning board approval. People get uncomfortable when they
Yeah,
use that ability to have a say.
a lot of the things that I'm speaking about, the planning board is doing now. It's just procedural wise, it's changing. So it's not like we're trying to ask for waivers that aren't being granted now. It's just a procedural change that we're making.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of getting past town meeting, right? People tend to get skittish if they can't clearly see, what exists today that everyone's comfortable with versus what will exist tomorrow should it pass. You know what I mean? So if there's a summary that exists already, they've already done, I think that'll help make people feel comfortable, more
Yeah.
comfortable with a change.
We're hopefully we'll be talking about it tonight. I have an Article 24 change summary. We're looking to have that included in all the town meeting members' packets they'll receive. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be finalizing it for our May 11th meeting and getting it to the town clerk May 12th to include in all the town meeting members' packets.
I was going to just follow up.
Yes, go ahead, Dave.
Just want to follow up to you, Nate. My question is going to be the similar thing. Do we expect a lot of controversy, pushback, or issues at town meeting on this? If so, how are you going to handle it? Or you think it's going to be?
Like I said, the items we're talking about are items that are currently being handled by the planning board now. This is more, like I said, preferred method, reviewing it with
I
town.
understand.
with
So maybe
town
that'll be
council.
helpful to make that part of your presentation, so I
Yeah,
understand. that.
yeah. Like
I-
I said, we will have something that'll go in the packet for all town meeting members.
We're also going to have that pre-town
Yeah,
meeting.
Yep.
And I think hopefully people will come if they have specific questions
Absolutely.
that night. It also gives people an opportunity to open their packet before the big
Oh,
day.
boy, that's
I
not
would
fair.
recommend
That's not fair.
anybody that's watching tonight, our office, give us a call, stop by. I'll be more than happy to walk through any
So
specifics.
some of the
with it.
commercial people in town could go to that meeting as well? Is that the
Yeah,
pre-town
it'll
meeting?
be open.
The
It'll be an
pre-town
open
meeting, yeah.
Some of the things that I noticed, and it had to do with landscaping and stuff, but you were saying that there's going to be, let's see. What did you say? There was going to be, it's gone, not in my notes. Oh, the rules and regulations will be listed in rules and regulations. So will some of these red line items about, I mean, there's some that are about landscaping, and I know that you're putting in an ADA, because that wasn't redlined out, that was just red. So ADA compliance, but signage and, you know, I just want to make sure too that the fire chiefs were included
Yes.
in this, looking
Yes,
at
the fire
this.
chief actually had something he wanted me to add to the rules and regulations. So those will be, like I said, those are about 90% done. There are a few minor changes that will go through with town council after town council gets us the language for the warrant article.
And if you, I'll note,
Lighting, there's just a lot of things that,
on
yeah.
page 39 of your packet is the rules and regs. We did
Okay.
include those, so.
Yeah.
And Dan said there may be some
Like
changes.
for one example, for landscaping, we're talking about waivers. It sounds like, you know, what is the planning board looking at that? One conflict we have is if we have utilities, if you have a sewer line or a water line that runs underneath a landscape island, having 9 shrubs instead of 10, or removing a tree because you don't want root intrusion going into
Yep.
a sewer service. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about flexibility, especially for redevelopment projects.
Go ahead, Nate.
Will the rules and regs be 100% complete by town meeting?
It depends on where town council is at that point, I would say.
'Cause again, I think that, I mean, I generally,
They won't be voted by town, we have to wait until town meeting, and then we'll vote on the regulations.
like, I'm in favor of this. I think it's good to simplify the process for commercial redevelopment is a good thing for the town. Just making sure that people are comfortable enough with it, like being able to see what is replacing all of these things that are being stricken in the red line, you know, and how is that gonna, you know, what is the difference between the two? If there's a question mark of, if someone's particularly passionate about bike paths, you know, they might want to say something about that.
Well, the rules and regulations in draft form were included in your packet, so that's in there.
Yeah, I see it, but we're also asking people at town meeting to compare and contrast rules and regulations, which is 14 pages long, with a previous version, redlined version of a bylaw, which is 50 pages long, and not being able to cross-reference. That's why I think the summary is going to be a good thing to help key people in on the key differences between what exists today
Yep.
and what will exist tomorrow, should all of this pass, you know, to give it a chance of passing through town meeting, you know? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and a lot of this was taken from potential site plan regulations that the state's working on. So these are things that might be a requirement to be in there in the years to come.
Is a moving target, huh, Dan?
It is, it's a moving target. But we have to kind of address some of these things now because some of these things are outdated. If we have to pivot down the road, we'll pivot down the road. But a lot of these things we need to get into, make sure we're current on our,
You're saying you're being proactive?
I'm trying.
This is unheard of.
Well, as soon as I saw that they don't have to submit printed plans, I knew we were onto something. Yes.
I think that, listen to what Nate had to say. I think that if it's possible to have that done beforehand, it may not be possible. I think it would be a tool.
The summary will be, that'll be in the packet to go to.
Summary,
to all
will
the
that be
town-
enough to fill in those red lines that are eliminated, the questions, I should say?
And we'll reference that the regulations are on file at the planning office, so if anybody has any specific questions, like I said, me and my staff will be more than willing, if anybody has any specific questions, to go through it item by item if need be.
When all is said and done, all of this will be in a place on our website.
Correct.
So
All right, so that was,
Mr. O'Neill.
that was the first question that I had. We'll post it so the public can see
Correct.
the changes prior to. Just for the public, if you can let us know how many members voted on this thus far and what the outcome was
Just repeat.
from the planning board.
From the planning board, it was 4 approved, no dissents, and 1 was absent. So it's 4-0-1.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes, certainly.
First, I just want to say kudos to Dan and the planning board, because I think the message from this board has been pretty consistent, to look at our bylaws, update them to not only what we're doing, but also to be, business friendly, but also still look out for the interests of the town. And I think that's exactly what this did. It's a lot of work, as you can see, so kudos to Dan and the whole board. Second, I want to make a point that a lot of what you're seeing changed here is to reflect current practice. Not saying we're necessarily doing it wrong, but things evolve over time, and we just need to keep up with current practice. And so when Dan was saying a lot of this is already being done, that's exactly what he means, that a lot of it is just hasn't kept up with current practice, because you have to have someone to make the recommendation, go back through town meeting, update those bylaws, and I wouldn't say it's anything of significance that, isn't being followed to a T. But we have bylaws in place for a reason, and we want them to be followed. So as far as the rules and regulations, I think it would be dangerous for us to give actual copies of the proposal, because those may change after town
Right.
meeting. But what we can do as part of the executive summary that Dan's working on is put a link to the proposed rules and regulations housed on the planning board's website to give people an idea of what that is. And I think between that, the executive summary, and the bylaw on the website, also is the red line version. Between all of that, we hope we're providing enough information for town meeting members to make an educated decision. There was also a public hearing on this, as required by Mass General Law, and I don't believe anyone was there to speak against the proposal.
All right, great.
Good.
All right.
Anything else for Dan?
Thank you. This was great information, Dan.
Great job.
So 28
Thank
minutes
you.
for your meeting.
Say that again?
28 minutes for your meeting.
I got plenty of time to make it to my meeting for 7.
Yes, that was our goal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Nice job.
All right, next on our meeting, we have the Dartmouth Public Libraries. We have Dina St. Pierre, the library director, is here to tell us all about this Minute Madness.
Yes, thanks for having me tonight. Dina St. Pierre, Director of Dartmouth Public Library. I can't really take the credit for this, our being involved. Dartmouth was involved for the first time last year. We have an information services librarian, Karen Gagner, who came to me and said, hey, this statewide competition's been going on. Do you think that we should participate? And I said, sure, let's do it. So Karen did a lot of the legwork last year, got us registered, did all the promo. We made it, Minute Madness is a bracket-style reading competition, and it's a play on March Madness for basketball. I believe it's college basketball. I'm not really sure. I finally learned how a bracket works this year, so I didn't know.
The bracket
prior
is in
to
our
this
packet,
year.
page 53. Looks very much like the traditional
Yes, traditional
sports-related
Sweet
bracket.
16. So last year we made it to the Sweet 16, and we didn't make it much further than that last year. I think we made it to the second round after the Sweet 16 last year. So we kind of brainstormed on how we could do better this year. So we came up with better marketing. Every book that was checked out, starting at some point in February, had a slip in it advertising that this is what we were doing. We partner regularly with Potter School because the North Branch is right next door to Potter. We have a path that connects the two locations. So it seemed like a great thing to partner with Potter, and their literacy coach, Caitlin Sullivan, was instrumental in setting up her own spreadsheet for this. She did a ton of work, a very impressive amount of work to keep track of Potter School students' reading minutes, and the teachers did fantastic with that too. So we made it to the Sweet 16 again this year. Dartmouth was in the top spot on the bracket, so we were very motivated to really push this out to people. So then not only were they getting a slip when they checked out a book, but we were telling everyone who checked out a book. We had a lot of information on the website.
It's on Facebook.
It was on a lot on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then every week it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until the final two. We were against Holbrook Library. And it was insane. We logged 1,192,733 minutes as a community. We had over 1,300 submissions on our sheet, our login sheet. So that's a lot of people reading and logging. It was all ages. There was an option where you could put your age. So people of all ages were logging. A lot of homeschool students were in competition with themselves or like with each other in their homeschool groups to see who could log the most. People were reading, newspapers, magazines, listening to audiobooks, family read-alouds. It was like, it just was incredible how it took off. And we won, which is pretty impressive. So now not only are we the highest circulating library in the Sales Library Network, but we're also the most read town in the state, which is fabulous. So very proud.
That is fabulous.
Everyone should be very proud of themselves. We're not all sports minded. So, for the people who are readers like myself, it makes you feel, really excited to win something. So, and again, we couldn't have done it without Potter School and the literacy coach, Caitlin Sullivan, who just really embraced the whole thing. And we're joking that if we get the other schools involved next year, there will probably be no competitions, and they won't want us to compete. So we have to decide how we're going to do that.
Well, looking at the numbers already, there's a target on our back.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because we are the town to beat, and I think we're up to the challenge.
I think we are too.
I bet there are people that are listening to the meeting tonight or will watch it at a later date and say, there was something called March Madness.
Yeah,
I didn't even log
how did
the
I miss
time
this?
site.
And now I want to do this.
That is great.
One other cool thing I just wanted to note is that the contest ended, I think it was April 2nd was the last day to log, I think. And people continued to log their minutes like up until the middle of April, and we just let them. I mean, it wasn't counting towards anything. But I think it just goes to show that sometimes you just, and we live in an app world, and people like to, we log how many minutes we walk or what we're eating. We do that kind of thing all the time. So I think people enjoyed that. So we're trying to figure out a way to incorporate something like that going forward with how people like to help just motivate people to read just for fun, for bragging rights. Look at all I read this month.
Absolutely.
They have apps like that, obviously, but people were saying to us, like on social media, we were seeing like, this really motivated me to read, even if it was 10 minutes a day or whatever. I mean, it motivated. I don't read every day personally, so but I did for this challenge because I was determined. So, So I think if we could find a way to tap into that, that would be something fun to do for the community.
Well, I also know that there's a push for people of all ages to limit their screen time.
Right.
And that was another great way to have it that says, let's do something other than. Mm-hmm. And I do know that people may have read on their device.
But that's not the same.
I'm
Right.
talking about versus,
scrolling
or game playing.
Right.
So this was great.
Yes. Thank
So you are about to receive our first ever
This is my first time in
Department
Dartmouth
of the
getting something like
Month
this.
Award. We've also never given out a Department of the Month Award. So this is proudly presented to the Dartmouth Public Library for promoting outstanding community engagement and winning the Minute Madness Statewide Reading Championship. Dartmouth read a total of 1,192,723 minutes.
Awesome.
Now that is awesome. So Dina,
I
on
can't
behalf
wait to
of
show the
all of us,
staff.
please come up and accept your award.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please share that with your staff.
Can't wait.
And we'll give a shout out to Potter School. My heart bleeds purple, So that's great news. And I think, now's the time to brainstorm. Okay, next year,
what do we do?
The month of March, what are we going to do? That's a great, get your books
We'll
out
email
and-
you tomorrow, Jess, with.
Yes,
What do we
Jess, yeah, our partner, our communications partner in all
She's
of this.
fantastic, yes.
But Dina, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. This
Mrs.
is
Brooks?
extremely
Yes,
exciting.
Mr. Tattlebaum.
I have to say, I find myself using the library on a regular basis, and I see Dina regularly and the staff. And this is not a one-and-done accident, what you're doing here. This is a growth in an institution now that's becoming something incredibly proud. And I've said it many times before. I remember when we voting to whether we're going to build the North Branch or not, and someone stood up at town meeting and said, "Why are we building a library? Nobody goes there anymore." And we've turned it into this incredible facility. It's amazing, and your leadership is extraordinary. But you have a great team.
We do.
You're
Oh,
putting
it's a great
together.
team.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm very, very proud to work with all of my coworkers. It's great.
It's amazing. It's beautiful, and the place just gets better. More activities, more stuff that's available to people. It's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're going to be inviting Dina back at another meeting to
Yeah.
showcase a lot of impressive information came out of the Citizens Academy that I attended. I'll be talking more about that later. But we're going to be inviting you, along with other departments, to future meetings so you can tell us more about it, because Dartmouth continues to be the highest
Yeah, that's a years long.
circulation.
That I can't take any credit for that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come to Dartmouth, because Dartmouth, I knew, working in another sales library, that Dartmouth was the highest and had been for a long time. And now I just, my goal all the time is what are we doing to keep that up? And we are keeping it up consistently. And we're right behind for digital circulation now, too. So I will take a little credit for the digital circ, but the physical circ is a long-standing, almost like a tradition in the sales network that Dartmouth has
And
been
just
known
a plug, this weekend,
Yes.
Friends of the Library is hosting their annual book sale
Yes.
at Southworth Library.
Southworth Library.
It starts for members. Go ahead.
It starts for
Take
members
us
on
away.
Wednesday evening, and then it starts to the public on Thursday at 10 a.m., and it runs all day Thursday, all day Friday again at 10 a.m., and then Saturday at 10 a.m. if they're not sold out.
So great news for book lovers. It's
Yes.
time you can come down and purchase a
Great
book.
bargains, yes.
And right now, you are no longer receiving books. All the books are being
Correct.
cataloged and getting ready to be put out.
Exactly.
So don't bring donations
So no more
right
donations. We appreciate the donations, but right now, no, there is nowhere to put them. So their donations will resume on, I believe
After.
it's May 5th, I think, the
now.
donations
So
resume.
after
Yes.
this weekend, after you've bought these books and read them,
Then you
feel
can-
free to donate them back, and we'll sell them again next year.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Heidi. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you for coming in, Dina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well
Have
done.
a good evening. Thank you.
That's an exciting one. All right, next. This item C, this firm appointment of Parks and Rec Director. You will see in the packet on page 58, section 3-2 of the charter for the select board does state that the select board should affirm the,
Should appoint.
or should
Select board
appoint.
Should actually appoint the Director of Parks and Recreation.
So the process happened last year. As you know, Parks and Rec appointed Rebecca Amaral. And so as part of our work as the select board, tonight, we would like to affirm that appointment.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Rebecca Amaral as the Director of Parks and Recreation.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Chris O'Neill, geez, here I go, and seconded by Mr. McDonald. Any questions on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent, passes unanimously.
It was a close vote, yeah.
Yeah. All right, next, so here's a next one, which is the review of the spring annual town meeting warrant. And if you've reviewed the packet, which I know you all have, you'll see there's also going to be a special town meeting warrant, and it's within that packet, pages 62 to 89 in our packet for tonight. So Cody, I'll have you run through this.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the first pretty much full draft of the warrant that you'll be reviewing. As you recall, we have reviewed items that would be on the warrant. And so what we anticipate for the June 2nd town meeting warrant is going to be 30 articles on the annual town meeting, and then we have, at this point, we're planning about 3 for the special, so I'll kind of walk through each of them. Many of these you should be very familiar with, as they're what we call the housekeeping articles. You see them every year. And so the first 7 articles are all Community Preservation Act articles. Article 1 is their administrative budget for fiscal 27, which is set annually, and they're looking for $35,000. That remains unchanged from the current fiscal year and actually unchanged for the past number of years. The next number of articles are for projects that the committee is recommending for funding. Article 2 is for the, I jumped ahead of myself. Article 2 is for an appropriation to their reserves. So as part of the Community Preservation Act, if we're not spending the money in a project, you have to put a portion of those funds aside into the reserve account to be spent for the project. So community housing is the only category this year that's not, projects aren't being proposed. So you'll see there's an appropriation in the amount of $112,000 to the Community Preservation Reserve account, and that's a requirement of the CPA. Article 3, we get into the projects. The first of those projects is the DCTV renovations, Phase 3, in the amount of $461,394. This essentially would, it's a historic preservation project for the exterior of DCTV. That's something that Peter Chase has been working on with our architecture team, and CPC was gracious enough to recommend this project. There'll be a $50,000 contribution from the DCTV retained earnings as well, you'll see later on in the capital plan. Article 4 is the Community Preservation Committee's recommendation for the conservation restriction for Duval Field. Duval Field is a property that pretty much abuts Duval's, and this is the Buzzards Bay Coalition is planning to acquire the property, and the Conservation Commission would acquire the conservation restriction in the amount of $575,000. Article 5 is for lighting at Crapo Field, and that is in the amount of $330,000, and that would be to upgrade all the lighting at Crapo Field. It's something that's been ongoing and necessary for quite some time, so they're recommending that. Article 6 is for the renovations at the Dartmouth Cultural Center, and that is in the amount of $853,300. This is in line with the 30-year lease previously approved by this board and the ability to lease up to 30 years at the previous town meeting. And then we have Article 7, which is going to be the Agricultural Preservation Fund in the amount of $1.5 million. This essentially provides for a fund for the Agricultural Commission to utilize in acquiring agricultural property as it becomes available, with the idea that they would preserve the properties indefinitely. And so $1.5 million there, and then they plan on requesting additional funds every year to keep up with that project.
So Article 5 should actually be 230, right?
I'm sorry, yeah, 230,000. It was 100, yeah, 100,000 coming from the Community Preservation Open Space and 130 from the Community Preservation Unrestricted Reserve.
So the CPC had several meetings to discuss these articles, which I attended, and they were great. You can always look back and watch them on YouTube. But I do know that when we go through the warrant and vote on the articles, typically, Buddy.
Yep, we can
Ben.
certainly look for Buddy to come in.
Buddy Baker Smith usually comes in and tells us a little bit more about each one. And I will say, although that the agricultural preservation is asking for $1.5 million, the town had granted that group an amount of money years ago. They've used all that money, but it's extremely important that they have that money set aside so that when something comes up, they don't have to then go through town meeting or anything else to acquire that property. And there are some properties that they're looking at now, should they come up in the future, that they would want to move on because they have either they abut an aquifer, they would assist with DNRT properties, Buzzards Bay Coalition properties. So it's nice to see that they can be more proactive than reactive.
Cody, do you know if the 1.5, if this is voted on and transferred over, what happens to that? Is it an interest-bearing account, or?
Yeah, we still retain
So you're
the cash
keeping it
flow
all
side of
together,
it.
right?
Yeah, it still stays in an account. It's just an appropriation. So we would create the account through our chart of accounts essentially, and then the cash still remains with the town. We would invest it. It would be interest bearing, like all our other accounts that we have these things in.
Question?
Yes, Mr.
Are
Chadwick?
we voting on this tonight?
No.
No.
This is our
your
first review.
Yeah.
And Finance has not gone through this at all yet either?
Finance Committee started their review last week. They're going to continue this week, and then they'll be voting next week.
Next week? Okay, and hopefully be here when we go through that.
Yeah,
have
you'll be
their-
reviewing it again for your final review on May 11th, which then you'll need to make
Okay.
votes and recommendations.
Thank you.
Article 8 is one of those housekeeping articles, an appropriation from the cemetery sale of lot fund. That is essentially the proceeds from the cemetery lots to be reappropriated for the use of the cemetery. Article 9 is another housekeeping article. This establishes our maximum spending for revolving funds. The amounts are still being confirmed, but we have the cemetery revolving fund, recreation and park revolving fund, and then the library revolving fund for lost and damaged items. That's a Mass General law that we have to set the limits. That's not an appropriation. That just caps out what we can actually spend. Article 10 is going to be the capital plan. We will have the updated capital plan to you later this week. CIPC met again last week to update their capital plan, so we're still finalizing what that will look like. Article 11 is salaries and stipends of elected officials. The only salary for an elected official is the town clerk. You will see the
Dave, you coming in with
the
motion
amount
to change
here is consistent with the compensation and
column.
classification study. We felt it was important, it's a full-time salary position, and so we essentially used the same methodology that we were using for all the other positions, where we take their current salary, place them on the scale closest to their current pay, guaranteeing at least a 2% increase, and so that's where that number comes from, and the town clerk agrees, and we think it's a good methodology to provide at town meeting. Article 12 is our operating budget. So Gary is going to give a presentation after the warrant review on where we stand with our proposed operating budget. As of now, it looks like it's going to be $113,388,015. It represents about a 4.3% increase from last year. And so, but Gary will go a little more in depth on that. Article 13, another housekeeping article, funding sewer and septic system betterments. So those amounts are just being confirmed by our team. Article 14, so this is where we get into funding each of the enterprise funds. Article 14 is the solid waste enterprise funds. I will say you don't have the amounts in here yet, but you'll notice there will be some increases beyond a typical year, and that's primarily as we look to keep up with and avoid deficits as we have in the last year. So essentially, we really haven't budgeted enough in a lot of these enterprise funds in the past couple of years. So you may see a bigger increase than a typical 3-4% increase. And it's really just to make sure we don't have a deficit again in the future. So 14 is solid waste, 15 is water, 16 is sewer, 17 is DCTV, 18 is waterways. Article 19, you may recall on our conversation with the school department, we felt like we were going to be able to meet an appropriation of 4.5% increase from last year's number. Any more than that, we just simply could not afford. The school committee did feel as though 5% was really their bottom line that they were able to get away with this year. They initially were requesting around 6.8%. And so in order to accommodate essentially that additional 0.5%, there's 2 additional funding sources within the budget this year. They're both one-time, we'll call them one-time sources. And so this is not something we should get in the habit of doing. Due to this smaller amount, we feel comfortable doing this. Not that $278,000 is a small amount, but when we're talking $113 million budget, it's relatively a small amount. And so the first of those articles, Article 19, is an appropriation for use of the collective bargaining stabilization fund in the amount of $100,000. This has been utilized in the past. We've created this. We appropriated additional funds in the fall. This account has about $1 million in it, and so it's historically only been utilized for general government collective bargaining. In our conversations, I didn't see why it shouldn't be used for the school. They're a department of the town, and so we're recommending $100,000 to be appropriated from this account towards the school department's budget. And then Article 20 is going to be another appropriation from the stabilization fund. This is from the full-day kindergarten stabilization fund. This has over about $350,000 in it. They're recommending $178,309 from that to help offset their budget. And so if you take what is going to be raised and appropriated plus these two stabilization fund amounts, it gets them to the 5%. Okay. And you know, again, you typically do not use one-time funds for recurring expenses. You know, kind of an extraordinary year, you know, a 5% increase is not necessarily the norm, right? Not year over year. And we feel as though with $1 million in the collective bargaining stabilization fund and about $350 in the kindergarten stabilization fund, there's at least some ability to continue that. Or if it needs to be completely absorbed in the operating budget next year, you know, $278,000 isn't the end of the day. Okay. We still remain consistent with absorbing another $240,000 that was previously utilized from the school choice funds to back into the general fund. So we're making, I think, really good progress as we move forward. And this is a balanced budget that we're able to recommend. And so,
Mr. Tattelbaum.
Quick comment on that. I think it's a great short-term solution. I think the school department, school committee understood the compromise was at this particular time and this particular year was something we really had to do, but it speaks for our priority in the convergence of long-range planning, of the budget advisory group, and coming together with an issue and a solution that is far more creative and long-term. But I think this is a good short-term, quick solution, and I think logical. Mm-hmm. But our work is cut out for us, how we spend over the short and long term.
Mm-hmm. All right. Article 21, this is the personnel bylaw amendment. So with the compensation and classification study, any positions that are part of the personnel bylaw, so our seasonal temporary employees, also some of the confidential employees in my office, and a few other positions throughout town that are non-contract fall into this. And so we need to make those updates in accordance with the compensation and classification study. So you'll see all of those in there shortly. Article 22, this is where we get into the bylaw amendments. So Article 22 is a general bylaw amendment, Chapter 134, Section 15. This is the language regarding the dog hearing officer. Mm-hmm. You'll see the bold language is the additional language, so we're not striking anything, but we added, additionally, the select board may, in its discretion, appoint a hearing officer other than a member of the Dartmouth Police Department to hear and adjudicate such related matters and to serve as the hearing authority for the purposes of nuisance and dangerous dog violations under MGL Chapter 140, Section 137 through 174D inclusive. Essentially, right now, the bylaw only allows for a Dartmouth police officer to be the hearing officer. You know, there could be cases where there's a conflict. We may need to bring in an outside hearing officer. Someone else in town may need to serve in that. And technically, right now, the bylaw does not allow for that. So it's just adding that ability if the select board deems necessary.
How many of those held during the year?
It varies. Sometimes we'll have none. Sometimes we'll have one or two. Okay. If it's a really bad year, you'll have 3 or 4.
What was the question, Chris?
How many times a year this happens?
Oh.
You have a
What was the
hearing?
answer?
Yeah.
It varies anywhere from 0 to 4 is the kind of average. Article 23, this is another general bylaw amendment, Chapter 315, Section 6. This is the snow removal from sidewalks.
Ooh, yeah.
I've mentioned this previously. The language that we're proposing to strike is if the snow falls in the daytime, it shall be removed from sidewalks within 4 hours from the time the snow has ceased falling. If nighttime, it shall be removed on or before 11 a.m. the next succeeding day. The problem with this, obviously, is people work. People are at school. Technically, if you have a snowstorm and it ends at 10 a.m., by the way the bylaw is written, by 2 p.m., you're supposed to have that snow removed.
It'll
And so,
leave work and
Yeah, it's
the
not realistic, it doesn't happen. So this goes back to similar with the site plan review, we're trying to do things that match current practice. So what you see is, we propose the snow shall be removed from the sidewalk within 24 hours from the time the snow has ceased falling at an accumulating rate. This is consistent with what you see throughout most communities around the Commonwealth. And then additionally, we added in commercial properties and all properties within 1 mile of a public school that do not comply with this requirement will be required to reimburse the cost of the town of clearing such sidewalks in order to maintain public safety. And so it goes back to our number one priority with this is public safety. And the biggest concern that we hear from our police department and schools is the immediate area around schools and also along the commercial corridor, Route 6, Swans Corner Road. We want people to clear it. However, if they don't, we don't want to just fine them. We also need to clear it, but we shouldn't be on the hook for that, right? Other residents shouldn't be doing it, and then we're basically on the hook for clearing sidewalks in front of other properties. So that's why the language is proposed. Essentially, they would have to reimburse the town for the cost of doing that. And so Tim Barber has put on his capital plan for, it's not recommended this season, but hopefully in the fall, if this passes, the equipment needed to go out and actually clear the sidewalks.
Yep.
The absurd
I think
part,
that's
the absurd part is that the commercial properties, they plowed their parking lot, but they did not do the sidewalk. And because they're out doing it, because they have to. The Dartmouth Street was incredibly dangerous this winter.
Exactly. All right, Article 24 is the long-awaited establishment of the tree bylaw.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've been working with the tree committee for, well, at least the past year.
Oh,
I
a
think
year, at
even
least,
longer than
yeah.
that.
Seems like a more.
And we feel like we have a pretty good concession of a bylaw. It's not exactly what they were looking for, but we think it's a realistic approach, first step for getting the bylaw on the books. Much of what it does is reinforces Mass General Law, Chapter 87, which is trees. And so, the concern, we're all for supporting the trees, and but we also need to have a mechanism to enforce these things, regulate them, and so there's very limited additional regulation in here. It's really primarily, like I said, reinforcing Mass General Law as an awareness to our community.
Did the tree committee vote on this?
They did.
They proposed it.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
we've worked with them.
I understand.
This was the latest version that they have agreed to.
Was it unanimous?
I don't know what the vote was. They're somewhat of a segmented group, so I've just been working with the chair, but she did advise me that this is
Thank
what
you.
they were recommending.
Okay, thank you.
So in here, though, it says an arborist certified by the Massachusetts Arborist Association or International Society of Arboriculture or any successor of either organization. Do we have a certified arborist?
No, that's just a definition.
Right,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we don't have
not,
one.
no.
Okay, I didn't know that anyone also
You wanna
carried
go to
that
school?
certification.
You want to go to school for that?
I don't think so. Okay, just wondering, thank you.
We install a fee? We installed a fee with this, correct?
A fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is
$300 per
I believe it is.
violation.
Yeah.
Good.
And we will look to have in the tree committee at the May 11th meeting,
Okay.
also to give a little more information on this. Let's see. Article 25 is, I actually just got the language back on Friday evening. I've talked about this before. It is essentially the ban on crypto ATMs. The police chief has recommended this. The FBI is recommending this. And so we do have a few of them in town. You primarily do not see them utilized for good.
Right.
And so it might be something the town considers banning. So we'll have that language inserted in there. Site plan review amendment, you just heard from Mr. Giosa in the planning board on what that will look like. We're awaiting just the final warrant language to go in the warrant. Article 27 is something that the Board of Assessors are recommending. It is an additional expanded veterans exemption. And so essentially it is, if it's a property that's in a trust or a conservator, but they still have ownership in the property, they're still eligible to get those exemptions. Technically right now, they're not able to. So it just expands that.
They'll be in to give us an idea of how many properties that affects.
Yes, we should have that data prior to the next meeting. And then Articles 28, 29, and 30 are all citizens petitions. I will note that Articles 28 and 29 have already been ruled out of order as not legal by town council, and so they are citizens petitions. We have to put them on the warrant. However, at town meeting, they'll be effectually ruled out
Which
of order.
ones, Cody?
28 and 29 have been ruled out of order. Council is still reviewing Article 30. 28 was a citizen's petition for an Allen Street sewer extension. The problem is we don't just raise and appropriate funds for sewer extensions. There's two ways. It's either a betterment process or the individuals that can get together, hire a designer essentially, and then hire on their own dime a licensed utility layer through the town and do the work. Or we do the betterment assessment. If it's a betterment assessment, it requires a 2/3. We basically do a vote of everyone that it would affect in the neighborhood. And we need 2/3 of everyone to vote yes. And then at that point, we would bring it to town meeting for funding and assess the betterment. We have met with the attorney who proposed this, and so they are aware that this essentially is going to go nowhere as a result of the way it was written, and they have options, and they're determining which option they're going to try to move forward with.
Okay. Could you also have them, or can we just correct the name of the streets? Because yes, it's Allen Street, but it is Sable Avenue and Tucker Road.
No, I cannot. The way a petitioned article works is I have to put it in the warrant exactly how they write it. So even though it's incorrect, we cannot change anything about a petition because the signatories, right, are certifying that exact language. So we have to copy and paste that exact language, whether it's accurate or not, and put it in the warrant.
Because if we were to vote on it, these places don't exist.
Well, that's why another reason
It's out of order?
it's ruled out of
Okay.
order. But yeah, I mean, there's several issues, but the main issue is it's
Okay.
just effectively doesn't
Both
do
are.
anything.
The only comment I have on 28 is that it came before us, and it's in front of the administration. So there are obviously people that are affected by the lack of sewer in that particular area that felt the requirement to try and get this petition together. I think at a minimum, and you may have already done this, it sounds like you may have, give these people, the proponents of this article, the information that they need to do it properly.
We did, yeah, we did. One of the other things I'll note is the petition itself, right? So a town meeting petition is different than a betterment petition. And the town meeting petition can be signed by any resident of the town of Dartmouth. What we found when we reviewed it is most of the signatories did not live in this area. Right?
Oh.
They were just residents of Dartmouth, whether they knew the proponent or not. But there were only a handful of residents.
Yeah, the betterment is definitely the better way to go.
Yeah, and so we provided all that information to the attorney.
Yeah.
And we've also, the project is actually designed, it may need some updating, but it was a deductible alternate from the 70s. And so our DPW team is working on a revised cost estimate for the project that we can share with the attorney who's representing the individual in this case. We're going to do that, and we're going to try to work with them as, if that's the will of that group of residents. But it does have to be a 2/3 of that group. And this has been tried before, I've been told. And essentially what happens is the people that have a failing septic system
Don't
vote
wanna-
for it
Oh, yeah.
because it's beneficial to them. But those that do not have a failing septic system don't want to bear the cost of a betterment right now, even though it potentially could help them in the
So this
future.
is from Sable Avenue down Allen Street to Tucker Lane. Is that right?
So it would start, that's what they proposed, but it's actually what we're actually looking at, the deductible alternate that we think may go forward, actually starts about halfway down Allen Street, about halfway through the George property.
Yep.
And goes down to Sable Ave, maybe 2 or 3 houses after Sable Ave. So it would effectually impact 17, I believe, properties is what it was.
Most on Allen Street, but
Yeah,
a couple
on Allen
couple
Street.
on Sable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
all right. Well, as long as we're being,
Yep, we're giving them all
we're
the
giving them the
tools.
information that they
Absolutely.
need. Yeah, good, thanks.
We have talked about making sure that we have as much of our community sewered as possible, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Article 29 and 30 are the same topic, just written differently, essentially. And so this is another one of those cases. We have a citizen's petition. We have to put it on the warrant. Article 29 is to form a police station reuse committee to see if the town will vote to establish a committee to look at determining the reuse of the former police station at 249 Russell's Mills Road. Further, that said committee shall be charged with soliciting requests for proposals in conformity with MGL Chapter 30B, Mass Procurement Laws. The committee will be responsible for reviewing the responses to the RFP and make recommendations to the Dartmouth Select Board and Dartmouth Town Meeting. Said requests for RFPs do not negate town agencies from responding with their own responses to the RFP solicitation. Said committee shall be comprised of a member of the Select Board, Building Commissioner, designee, Planning Board member, designee, Town Administrator, Finance Committee member, Capital Planning Committee member, and 3 residents of the town. Said committee shall make their report to the Select Board and Town Meeting. Town Council ruled this out of order, being illegal. Essentially, it does not say how the members would be appointed. So it says 3 members of the community, but it gives no appointing authority to those. It also questionable. It's the procurement in the RFP process oversteps the law, because that is the Chapter 30B requires that those solicitations be through the chief procurement officer of the town. So a committee does not have the authority. And so essentially the article, those are the 2 issues. Primarily, no appointing authority, and also town meeting doesn't have the authority to override state law with that. So then we did let the petitioner know that it was ruled out of order for those reasons, and he did submit Article 30, form a police station reuse committee, and you see it's a little bit different. So to see if the town will vote to establish a committee looking at the possible reuse of the former police station at 249 Russell's Mills Road. Further, that the committee shall be charged with soliciting possible reuse concept proposals for the building. The committee will be responsible for reviewing the responses, and the committee shall share its findings and recommendations with the Dartmouth Select Board and Dartmouth Town Meeting. Said request does not negate town agencies from responding with their own responses. Said committee, to be appointed by the Dartmouth Town Meeting moderator, shall be comprised of a member of the Select Board, Building Commissioner, same group as mentioned previously, 3 residents. Said committee shall make their report to the Select Board and Town Meeting. And so it does address some of the concerns that we previously brought up. However, council has not rendered a final decision on the legality of it. So I'll have an answer for you prior to your next meeting. We'll certainly have an answer at town meeting.
And we're going to have a discussion a little later tonight about
Yes, on the police
property.
station, yeah. So as you all know, we did have a reuse committee for the former police station, and we'll talk about that later on in the agenda. And then we go on to our special town meeting. Special town meeting, this is three proposed articles. The first is snow and ice deficit. We have to address our snow and ice deficit. Last time we had looked, we are in about an $800,000 deficit, primarily as a result of the major blizzard that we got. We also had another large storm prior to the blizzard. There's 2 ways of addressing a deficit in snow and ice. We're allowed to deficit spend. It's the only account per Mass General Law that city and town can deficit spend. We can either address it at a town meeting, or we can raise it on the recap. And so we have it in as a placeholder. Gary and I are still discussing what the best option is for us at this time. If we address it in this transfer, it would have to come from free cash, and so we have to make sure that we'd have enough free cash. If we raise it on the recap, it's essentially part of the tax process. So we have to look at which one is best, but we're putting it out there right now. And then Articles 2 and 3. So you may recall at the fall town meeting, we addressed deficits in 2 of our enterprise funds, our water enterprise fund and our solid waste enterprise fund. We are not going to run a deficit again this year, which is good. But what we have is what I'm calling essentially an appropriation deficit. And so what that means is we're bringing in enough money now. We weren't in water in particular, because that's why we did the mid-year rate increase. And so now when we look at our revenue, we're doing okay. We're going to cover our costs and hopefully start to build a little bit of reserves. But what happened is when we appropriated the budget last spring, we didn't technically appropriate enough, right? So we said there's only going to be X amount in revenue and expenses. That's what we appropriated. Our expenses are more than we initially budgeted for. Our revenue is going to cover it, but we have to make that additional appropriation. So it's really a budgeting change. The impact is already there. We've already made sure we're going to address it. So it's not a true deficit, because we're just changing appropriation amount. And so this, we know we're going to need it for water, we may need it for sewer, and you may actually see another article in here for solid waste. We have a financial meeting with the team tomorrow to review where we are, and we'll have numbers for those prior to your next meeting.
Well, I can remember when we initially were preparing the budget and looking at that, and then looking at the deficit and knowing then that we probably had not put enough money into that account, so.
Yeah, so we're trying to be proactive and
Yeah.
address it with this year. What would happen if we did not do this is, at the end of the year, Department of Revenue would come back to us and say, technically, you ran a deficit, appropriation deficit, and so you need to make an additional appropriation at fall town meeting. We know it's going to be an issue. We knew it was going to be an issue, hence why we looked at our rates. So we should address it now. It makes sense to be proactive in this matter.
Nate?
Just going back to the snow and ice deficit, can you explain the two options again on, so you'd either use free cash or you'd?
Yeah, raise it on the recap. So the recap is essentially what we submit to the Department of Revenue of all of our revenues and expenses. And so snow and ice is allowed to be accounted for, a deficit is allowed to be accounted for in the recap. And so you essentially would cover it with the appropriation of the next year. And so like raised on the recap is also the account that we use for abatements, exemptions, things like that. It's not something that town meeting appropriates because it comes directly from the recap. And so snow and ice deficit is another way to do that. You need to have the availability of that revenue essentially, which is why we're reviewing, because we're kind of maxed out with revenue. So it may be a combination of both, but that's essentially the two options.
So you could do a hybrid option too?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, our team's confirming that. Any other questions on the warrant? We're coming together quickly, so we'll have all of those people in at your May 11th meeting. I would say if you have any questions, things that you're questioning at this point, let us know prior to the 11th. We start moving quick here because the 11th you'll need to approve the warrant and make your recommendations because the town clerk needs everything on the 12th, and then town meeting is June 2nd.
So with that in mind, is there anything or any more information on any of these articles, or anyone that you want to have invited to that meeting to answer any questions we might have? We said Buddy Baker would be here for the, Buddy Baker Smith would be here for the CPC articles.
And the tree committee in for the next
And the
one.
tree committee for
Have it
that
official-
article. Yes,
Excuse me.
go ahead.
Official invitation to the finance committee to be here? Or a representative, by their choice?
So are you looking to have a joint meeting, or are you looking to have just someone represent the
Well,
finance committee?
I would, we want to get a report on on how they voted, and that could be done. I don't think we need to have a joint meeting, but I'd like to have, they can bring as many people as they'd like, but I think a question may come up or a comment to be made, and I think someone should be here.
In the past, we have had a
Yes.
joint meeting.
Yep.
Have we run out of time?
No, I mean, we certainly can do it. The chair of the finance committee is here. If she, she may be able to provide opinion, insight, if she thinks it would be helpful to have it.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I think the results can come forward.
Yeah, last year we had a couple of representatives from
Right.
the finance committee. We didn't have the entire finance.
Yeah.
committee.
And that's our next meeting, and I know that they're meeting
Yeah.
the next couple of weeks to get their,
So perhaps we can make a request that someone, I know Gary's here to answer
So a
questions
rep.
as well, but
we'd like a rep from their committee.
Well said.
It can be a tree committee rep as well.
Yes, yeah.
oh, yeah.
Was there anything else? What about,
The police station, I'd like to have some kind of executive summary on exactly where we stand on that whole
okay,
thing.
well, in the next,
Yeah.
it's in our, I think you'll feel better after we
Yeah,
talk
okay.
about that. What I'm thinking is DPW, to talk about the enterprise funds, if we have any questions.
We can have them in, however, I will say the financial side, your questions will be better answered by myself and Gary.
Okay,
But if you,
No,
if you
then-
prefer to have the director, and I
I
certainly
didn't know
can.
if we needed them to talk about the snow and ice, or to talk about any of the enterprise fund. I didn't know.
You tell me if the board would like, but the financial side, Gary and I definitely will be able to give you more, more insight, as we're the ones handling that.
I think that's okay.
And that's fine with me. I didn't think there was anything else in the warrant. That lent itself to another board, or, so I think we'll be all set. But if anyone comes up with something,
Yeah.
you'll let Cody know. All right. We will move on to E, the FY '27 budget presentation with Gary. So for this one, we don't have anything in our packet. All is going to be up on the screen.
Gary was working around the clock yesterday to get this done, putting out fires across the street and everything.
Yes, I did see that. Was he over there? I was driving by and I saw.
Okay.
Stomp it out.
This is gonna be lighting here.
What happened, Gary? We had a little blaze next door?
Like 6 of them.
Could feel the heat in the parking lot out front.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't a good scene.
Oh, is it the piles across the street?
Yeah.
Oh, they just,
Yeah.
Fire and then took off.
hey.
So, okay, thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board for having me tonight. Again, Gary Carrero, Director of Finance, Budget and Finance. So this is very high level. Some of the slides that I'm going to show you, you've seen already, and I think the point of this is we want to keep the narrative consistent when we talk to the public through the Budget Advisory Group, through the Finance Committee, and obviously through the Select Board. Again, just so the public at home can see this, our operating budget and expenses are made primarily from schools, public safety, public works, community services, general government, debt service, benefits, and insurance. You've seen this slide at the joint meeting that we had. Nothing has changed on this. Again, I want the public to keep seeing this. And the pie graph that we have, the schools, 57% of the budget, 65% is due to VOC, and when we add in Aggie to that. So general government, 5%, community services at 3%, public works at 4%, public safety at 10%, and then benefits at 1%, debt service at 4%, and health and liability insurance at 16%. And what makes up the operating revenues, we've talked about this before, Proposition 2.5, property taxes and new growth, state aid, 1.2% increase for FY '27, local receipts, flat 1.43 from fiscal '24 to '25, overhead and indirect costs and other available funds. And then this is what our operating revenues look like throughout the pie chart. The biggest piece of it, 71% of property tax. And then state aid at 14%, overhead and indirect costs at 3%, and local receipts at 10%. And then the property taxes, the breakout, $78.8 million our levy. We had $1.9 million in new growth, in additional 2.5% every year, $800,000 in new growth, and $869,000 in debt exclusions. So what I thought was important was to talk about expenditure highlights in the FY '27 budget. Out of the entire budget, I'll go over some of the what I felt were the high-level items that we looked at. So main core administrative functions. When I set the budget out in November, when we started this process, my budget message to the entire town was remain at 3 to 3.5%. The majority of the departments did that. We were fortunate that they came back with those budgets at that rate. Obviously, some of the departments were higher. We worked through that, and I'll get through that in a minute. Focused on efficiency and service delivery. As mentioned before, the health insurance initiative that we had, we saved on average about $2 million for this year. That was a collaborative effort from the unions, from other boards and committees that were involved. We're happy with that. We're putting that back into the employees to try to retain and recruit employees in the future. The budget transparency portal, which we'll be putting out live soon. I'll give a good synopsis of what we do internally. A lot of times people that are out in the public don't see that. We talk about names like free cash and so on and so forth. and the general public doesn't know that. So this is really a version of what we do internally, but is something that the public can really grab a hold of and ask questions if they needed to. And then the budget advisory group we've been working on, we're going to be putting a document out very shortly, a draft version of that. We'll have that, I think, tomorrow at our meeting, and that's going to be a key document, I think, to move forward with collaboration of all the groups going forward into the future and what we plan on doing. And then something that I proposed to Cody, I know that we haven't spoke about this, but we talk about revenues and how competitive we are with other communities and really taking a look at the revenue structure in town. I developed, what I sent Cody was what I'm calling a revenue review group that I hope could meet quarterly initially. I'll look at our fees, how we compare to other communities, and just see if we're comparable. I mean, we hear it all the time, we're not charging enough for this fee, or we charge too much for that fee. Well, where's the baseline? Where is that? What does that look like? So I envision that to be an internal group. We work internally. It doesn't include any board members, but we work with the department heads to go through that. Public safety, you will see in the capital requests that there was a staffing needs response time for a staffing assessment study that the police department is going to be doing for fiscal 27, and continued emphasis on training and equipment readiness. In the last go-around for CIPC, the chief had requested to standardize his firearms, which will be compatible with state police. So they're all using a standard firearms now, so that's efficient when it comes to having to purchase, ammunition, having to service these firearms. Also, he requested Axon tasers, which is the newer version of those tasers. It's more accurate and more precise when they have to use them in an unfortunate case that they have to. So those are two big items that come out of the public safety. Dartmouth schools, as you well know that we struggle continually with staffing requirements. And I think from what we've heard from the schools is that, we're trying to still retain the health insurance as part of that, competitiveness with other communities. Hopefully that will slow that down. And we continue that process well beyond FY27. Special education costs, we've seen the rise of that over the last few years, working in conjunction with the schools, try to mitigate those costs going forward. We have that plan for the next 3 to 4 years out. And then transportation costs, we see an increase every single year with our bus contracts, and in a situation where there's only one player in the game, it's very difficult to try to get somebody from, out in Timbuktu to do our bus contracts. We want to have somebody local that can service the district. So those are, I believe, 3 big items that we're looking at going forward. Public Works, road maintenance being one of the biggest ones. We were able to add an additional $600,000 from CIPC to complement what they have going forward. Also, fleet maintenance, we see that every single year that the costs can continue to rise, whether we're purchasing vehicles, whether we're maintaining these vehicles, oil changes, brakes, you name it. It's very, very expensive going forward with this. And then, obviously, the volatility for cost for fuel increases, as you've seen it globally. We're hoping that settles down a little bit, but in this fiscal year's budget, you'll see that rise because what we're seeing as far as price for oil. So this is a snapshot right here of what the budgets look like. I like to put both budgets together for FY26 and 27 so that you can see what the comparison is. And I think if you look at the bottom line, $108,500,000 for fiscal 26, and then for FY27, $113,389,515. It's a $4,889,000 increase, roughly a 4.3% increase. The biggest driver here, obviously, is the schools. In that number, you will notice that we did see a decrease from VOC, thinking because it's because of the lottery system. Budgeted $6.3 million, came in at about $6.1 million, and then Aggie stayed pretty much flat. So we were lucky in a sense that we could retain some of those savings, helping us give that back to the schools, our schools, and helping the complement that we gave the schools at the 4.5% level. So whether that continues, I'm not sure. I had conversations with the superintendent. I'm not sure how that they're talking about now, maybe eliminating that, doing something with that lottery system because of the unfairness of it. So that's something we have to really keep track of, because if the assessment goes back up, that's something we're going to have to address. So it's kind of like when I asked the question, it was basically, they said, it was due to the lottery system, and the children that are being selected for the district now. And you'll see debt has decreased as every year, obviously it decreases, we're paying it off. Employee benefits has increased. Again, we didn't strip that down completely because we're putting that back into the employees. Public safety, a slight increase. General government, a slight increase. But the biggest driver here is the school. So overall, a 4.3% increase from fiscal 26. And this budget is balanced. And just speaking, when we started the process in November, we've had a lot of meetings, a lot of collaboration. I mean, probably the most collaboration we've had in a lot of years with the schools. We had the joint meeting with them, and I think that it shows the the ability for both these groups and even the finance committee to get together and through the budget advisory group to address these issues. And it's not going to go away. We still have multiple years out there. We're looking forward. We look ahead with our projections, and we see that this does not go away. So we need to keep this momentum going, if you will, and I think that we're on the right path for that. Does anybody have any questions on this? I know this slide is the roll-up of the entire budget. Obviously, there's a lot more detail, and that's through the Schedule A.
The only thing that I'd add, Gary, is the revenue review. If we're doing that by department head, I'm trying to get an idea of exactly what fees we're charging versus other communities. That wouldn't essentially be public information until it is. I'd like to see once that data is put together, if they could come before the BAG, whether I'm running it or whoever's running it, would be able to come forward and just give us an idea publicly where we stand.
Yeah, I think it's
the fact that we're
we talk about the departments that, every department that's charging fees, we talk about that every year. Are they competitive?
Yeah.
I think this, and Cody and I will have to talk more about this, but this actually puts it in some kind of structure that we have some kind of document that we can say, yeah, the building department is competitive. Planning is competitive. So I think it's a good tool to use going forward.
Yeah,
and
it's essential because we're going to need to let people know that we've looked at it, we've turned over every rock. This is what we found. And, we're addressing all of the things that people talk about at coffee shops. We're addressing them.
Yeah, and I think it's also the point that, we want to remain competitive, but we don't want to be the person that's charging the most. We don't want to draw away businesses because now they're going to another community to build because they're cheaper. We want to make sure that we're competitive. And I think that having that analysis allows us to do that, to say, listen, we have a document here that shows all the other communities, and we're competitive. Come do business in Dartmouth. I think that's really when it comes down to it, that's really what the goal is, I think. But I know Cody and I sent it to Cody, we still have to review that.
In talking about the fees, though, we had talked about if we're making changes to fees that were consistent, that the changes would take place July 1st or January 1st. So I think it makes sense that if you put that together and we have to make some adjustments, that it comes actually to the select board.
Yeah,
so
and if it's a process that takes an entire year, FY28,
Right.
you roll it out in FY28, and then, it's competitive,
But at
it's
least people
fair.
will know we're doing it with research behind it, not we pulled a number out of our head.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ms. Brooks?
Yes, Mr. Talbot.
With the site plan review improvement, hopefully, compartmentalize and reduce issues and time and maybe even cost because they're more efficient. Is that something realistic we look towards to try to make use of empty or abandoned properties that could be developed because now we have a tool that's more meaningful, or is that just going to be maybe something that's sort of incremental? You got any feel for that?
I can answer that. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we'll certainly see some benefit from it. I don't think it's going to change the overall atmosphere, right, in driving all this business, but it certainly is a tool that we can put in our toolbox to try to attract business. As Dan mentioned, I think one of the biggest things is right now redevelopment you're essentially required to almost meet new development standards, and so that can be a huge cost burden. So with those changes, I think it'll help. I also think, the board previously approved the Economic Development Task Force.
Right.
Once we have a new assistant town administrator on board, that's one of their first tasks, and really, throughout the interview process, we've made it known that economic development's a key area where we want that position to focus
As a
on.
town, you have limited capability of knocking on doors. On the other hand, we're building a process that will make it better than it is now and then market us a little more. But it's a building process, slow but sure. Is that?
Yeah, that's accurate. And I'll say we've also requested other department heads to review their rules, regulations, bylaws for barriers, right? So we certainly hear feedback from the community, whether it's builders, utility layers, you name it. And some of that is just, I don't like doing this, and our response is, well, sorry, we have a community to protect. But some of it is legitimate concern, and we need to look at those things. So the site plan review update is one of those. I think there's some others, particularly with our stormwater, that we need to look at, and our departments are actively doing that as kind of time allows in their day-to-day.
Like affordable housing, where other towns around us are 2%, 3%, and 4%, but they don't want to build there, they want to build here.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, it's the same kind of concept, that if we can find ways to expand but not hurt ourselves and go too far too fast. But it's a building, it's not going to happen overnight, it's a building process.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing to note, well, actually two things to note in the budget. The first is, Gary mentioned health insurance, which, we're anticipating about a $2 million savings, right, combined. You still are going to see an increase in the health insurance line item for going into 27. The reason is, it's twofold. We agreed that we were going to reinvest those savings in our staff, which is primarily being done by increasing our contribution rate on the high deductible plans to 75/25. So that's a significant cost. The other piece is, I think that we have pretty competitive health insurance now. Well, as of July 1, we'll have pretty competitive health insurance. We anticipate people jumping on our health insurance that we do not currently. So it's going to cost us more money, not the rates themselves, but offering that to employees. It's good health insurance, and now it's at a pretty reasonable cost. And so we needed to be able to build a buffer of what we anticipate people jumping on. 27 will be a good year for us to really evaluate, because we'll have a full year on the new plan. And then 28, if the uptick in enrollment isn't quite as high as we expect, we may be able to not increase at as much of a high rate. I don't foresee us decreasing that line item, but you may see some stability there. But that's a big thing. I'm sure the board may question, and members of town meeting, hey, we just made these changes, why isn't there a savings? That's why. And the last thing we want to do halfway through the year is say, okay, now we need to figure out where to find $400,000 because we had 20 more employees join our plans.
Right.
It's really a good thing, because the increase that you'll see is in line with what we would have seen if we didn't change anything.
Right.
And now we're offering much more cost-effective insurance to our employees, and also likely more employees want to take our health insurance, which is also a good thing. That means we're providing better benefits
And dental.
all around. Yeah.
Dental is a new piece for,
Yes, we won't pay anything toward it, but
right,
we
but
just
it's
will
being
offer it.
offered through SHMEG, which is
Yeah, the dental
exciting.
and vision are both
Yeah.
very good plans, so you'll see that there. And then the other piece I want to make the board aware of is, within the 113, 389, 515, we will not have any of our collective bargaining agreements settled for this town meeting. We're actively bargaining, but we will not have them settled. So within that figure, there is a small buffer built in. We do anticipate, once we settle, that we're still going to have to go back in the fall and request some money from that collective bargaining stabilization, but we did build a small buffer into the overall operating budget for that bargaining. And so they won't be settled. However, we won't need to come back for the full amount in the fall. We built in what we think is it's a small buffer, but it's a buffer that allows us to already have something built into the budget.
Keep in mind, we also have the collective bargaining stabilization fund, too.
Yeah. So anything that we settle between essentially town meeting and the June town meeting and the fall town meeting, we are maxing out our revenues right here. So there is no more money available in the revenue side. So anything in addition to what we built in here will come from that collective bargaining stabilization fund, which we feel comfortable we'll be able to work through.
And Cody, I've spoken about going forward, because we're at the max, well, not at the max, well, I've funded our stabilization fund per our financial policies up to about $13-14 million. We should make a practice of funding that collective bargaining account going forward, so that when it comes time for future years of negotiations, we have those funds available. Where you're not scrambling around the budget to try to find, okay, we gave a 3% raise, now we're trying to find revenues to cover that. So it's a good planning practice going forward because we have the available cash to do that. So I think that's something that's important.
One fun fact I'd like to share with the board.
Fun fact.
That was pretty eye-opening is we are the only AAA community in Bristol County.
So out of 78 out of the 351 communities in Massachusetts that are AAA, Dartmouth is the only one in Bristol County. So out of the however communities there are in Bristol County, we are the only AAA community.
That was as of last year, so someone could have gotten upgraded to AAA. But you get the idea. Even if there were one or two communities that upgraded in the last year, we're the only community. That speaks volume.
Yeah, it sure does.
Especially as we're looking at the potential of borrowing.
Oh yeah,
That's good to know.
That's tens of millions of dollars in savings.
In savings.
For a new school project.
Okay, so I know this is kind of small. This is the proposed spring annual town meeting capital items that the committee voted on, and with our two new members that the board had approved last week, the last meeting, Maria Fredette and Mark Lowell. We met, we had to make a little bit of some changes, not a lot, but you'll see that the Dartmouth Police, as I spoke about, continue their purchase of the TASER program, their staffing study, administrative vehicles, a contribution to road maintenance for the highway department, town hall. We have a vehicle that, well, we're calling it a government vehicle for a general purpose use. The feasibility study at the Southworth Library, the SCADA north and south pump stations. That's the supervisory control and data acquisition, which kind of is like the hub of all the processes that the sewer department needs. Solid waste, they're looking for a Mack truck rail loader packer. DCTV building improvements, phase 2, production truck replacement, and the truck video equipment replacement. That's the the box truck that you see at most of the facilities. Waterways Enterprise Fund, they're looking for a utility truck. Dartmouth Parks and Recreation, the automatic gate for the DRPT, and in the public schools, flooring replacement project. In some of the schools, technology hardware replacement for multiple schools, bathroom renovation, HVAC upgrades, and school bus replacement. Now, I think what was eye-opening for this year's capital requests were the before and after pictures that we saw, especially for the schools who did bathroom renovations and circa 1980, when they were last done, and the new renovations that we saw. It really paints a picture of what this committee does and what they've done for infrastructure. And keep in mind, this is all surplus revenue, so we're not borrowing for any of this. So the maintenance that we do, the smaller maintenance that we do, this is what is the fruits of that after they voted. Now, some of these projects, like the school bus, Cody can maybe speak a little bit on this. There was a bill, I think, that's being proposed to potentially get that covered. And so if that happens, then we wouldn't have to vote on the school bus. But I think that's being done by the Senator's office.
At the state level?
Yeah, so we were informed, Senator Montigny was able to insert the bus for us, as well as some equipment, music and athletic equipment. We won't know the final result of that until I'm hearing mid-May, the end of May potentially. And so obviously the warrant needs to be finalized May 11th. But what we did is we did hold another CIPC meeting with that in mind. And this is what will go on the warrant if it hasn't been approved at that point at the state level. And if it does get approved prior or after the warrant has been posted, we will have an amendment for town meeting prepared where CIPC has voted to essentially reallocate that $150,000 for the school bus replacement and put that into the HVAC upgrades right, Gary, was what they had proposed, and that would almost fully fund their HVAC upgrade. They had requested $600,000 for HVAC upgrades. The committee recommended $4, and then $150 for the bus.
Yeah, they'd come up with 50,000.
So if that gets approved at the state level, there'll be an amendment at town meeting to move that to the HVAC, so it'll be $550 for HVAC. So we've been proactive in being prepared for that.
Yeah, and, I mean, the list, every year, we started off with certified free cash for about $8.5 million this year. There was some of that spent at the fall town meeting. And even with all this spend down, net out the enterprise funds, we still have about $1 million, $1.1 million left in free cash, which will roll over into the fall town meeting.
Which is consistent with our financial policies. We always want to
Yeah, we
leave
shouldn't be
some
spending
free
down every
cash.
penny of free cash. We
Need
should
a buffer.
leave some of that available.
And although $1 million sounds like a lot, when we have a $113 million budget, $1 million really isn't.
Gary, pretty impressive eyesight reading from there.
Exactly, Superman.
Is it from memory or is it your eyesight?
No, it's not from memory. Do you have any questions on the capital list?
New vision plan, the town's on.
I guess so, good work. I got to get me some,
I'm the poster man for
because from here it's very
He's
fun.
full of it. He didn't see anything up there. He's just making it up.
Can't see this the way.
Good news, we can't see it either.
Yeah, so it's just, you know, the CIPC does a lot of work. They start at the beginning of the calendar year in January, December timeframe, and they work and hear out all the departments. They listen to every single request, and then they make the best, you know, this doesn't address a lot of the long-term issues, but it addresses a lot of the short-term, which helps maintain the fleets and smaller items. So to wrap up, I think this slide says it all. I mean, structural cost growth outpacing revenue limits. We talk about Proposition 2.5 again, local aid, local receipts, and how those have been flat over the years. The volatility in healthcare, even though we've went through the process just now of changing, I feel that that's something that should be done on an ongoing basis. We shouldn't just say, okay, we saved $2 million, let's not look at it for another 10 years. Let's continue that process. Let's see how we can be competitive and drive down those costs even further. And also the infrastructure demands that require sustained investment. We talked about long-term capital and how that looks going forward. Presentation to address those bigger items like the schools and other projects like the wastewater treatment plant. And that is it.
Thank you. Any questions, Nate?
Just going back to the capital list, I know the warrant itself is going to show what's been recommended by CIPC. I'm going to go back to saying it would be helpful for context for having an insertion in the packet or something that shows those items that were not recommended, just to show the complete picture of the needs of all of our departments and what's able to be funded versus what's not able to be funded. I think having that complete picture for everyone at town meeting is important.
I think I drew that up on my memo to town meeting last year, so we can continue that.
Okay.
We had a list of the requests that didn't make it.
I think it was more aggregated, though. It was.
You can break it out.
Yeah, I think showing the specific projects. So Parks and Rec, for example, requested these 5 things, and these 3 things are being recommended, but these other items still remain as needs. You know,
We have
just,
the list. That's a good,
Yeah, you have the list. I know.
Probably post something on the website and link to it. The reason we don't do it is because we have probably 100 items that are requested, and it'd be a lot to kind of put in there. So that's why Gary aggregates it, but we could certainly post the full plan, and then if, you know, say here's a link to the full plan with all requests in it. But we want to share the information, trust me. We also are cognizant of we don't want to overload people because, you know, Finance Committee puts together a 5 or 6 page information. So you have CIPC, you have the full Schedule A budget, which is a lot of information. And then you have things like the site plan review bylaw, which is a ton of information. And so we want to provide the information. We also want to provide it in a digestible format.
I would be fine with it being online.
Yeah.
Just to show the full context of
something
the
online.
needs of the town.
By
Put a
department?
link.
Maybe by department?
Yeah, it's broken down. The full capital plan is broken down.
I mean, if you look, I mean, I couldn't print it out. It's like, it's massive because it's so large.
Anyone else?
We will send you the presentation tomorrow morning as well, so you don't have to squint as you review it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. And again, another thank you to both you, Cody, and everyone else that voted on the benefits package. I think that's going to make a real difference. And I know year after year when we've been going through the contract cycle, doing something about the benefits has been, a big item. And so, fortunately, we seem to have resolved that. Unfortunately, it wasn't, we cannot use it as a bargaining tool because we needed to resolve it. But I think going forward, I think everyone that benefits from those, whatever department you work in, sees that we finally were able to, we didn't kick the can down the road. We were finally able to find a group that was willing to work with Dartmouth and at a cost savings, and the benefits are going right back to the employees. So
And what's important too is that Dartmouth's a large community, so we have that leverage to be in a smaller group. And we have a seat at the table, and we can't wait another 10 years to look at this. We have to remain competitive.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of missed opportunity when you're talking $2 million. And if you times that by how many years that the rates were at lower, at the single digits, and we were paying Maya at, double digits, that adds up.
Yep.
And it's something that needs to be looked at every single year, in my opinion.
And they couldn't move on it. Maya knew we were looking and couldn't do anything else. Nate?
To that point, what type of process can we implement to ensure that every whatever incremental amount of years we are looking at that, so we don't go another 10 years? Is there?
So when for instance, I chaired the group down the Cape, which was the Gateway Health Group, and we had our own consultant, just as they have their own consultant. So we had our own consultant that was looking at that every 3 years. We have to sign a 2-year contract, 3-year contract, and we went out. We were pretty much going to look to see who the best rates are. But as I kept mentioning through this process, Maya was a great alternative when they were single digits. But when they started to climb into the double digits and close to 20%, the trigger has to be pulled, and we need to start looking. So there could be something in place that we, either Cody and I or whoever looks at that on an ongoing basis. I mean, we're not going to change next year because we just did this. But maybe every 5 years we relook at it. Or maybe every 3 years we look at it. And the answer may be we have a good deal. But I think it still needs to be revisited.
And I think about my own insurance. I shop it out every however many years when it feels like it's getting stale, just to make sure I'm staying competitive. So I think having a process established in town, what is the right interval to go out and take a look, and maybe we stay, and maybe we jump ship again, but just having some sort of process
I would
or
say it's
timeline in place.
every 3 to 5
Looked
years.
before, but I know the last time we looked, which it could have been 10 years, the departments, the unions weren't willing to move.
And when I chaired the group down the Cape, the reason why Dartmouth did approach our group, but the reason why Dartmouth wasn't accepted in was because the claims history was very bad in Dartmouth. And so as the group gets younger, it gets healthier, it gets, there's more proactivity in medicine, that helps. So now Dartmouth is an attraction where before it wasn't. So I think that's what really helped us out this time too. That was a big piece of it. But I agree, I think we should be looking at this more often.
We have a plan in place, as long as I'm here, to look at it every 5 years.
Yeah.
You'd love to look at it every 3 years. The reality is it's a lot of work. And so I think 5 years is kind of that middle ground of, we're not stale, we're not going too long. And if we did have to change every 5 years, so be it. It's a lot of work, but anything lower than 5 years, you may need to hire someone full-time to do that, because it's been a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think we look at our consultants too at the group, and we rely a lot on them to say, okay, this is what the trends we're seeing, this is what inflation looks like, and then that's kind of the trigger to say, you guys need to be looking, we need to be going.
And you get a couple of other things to consider too. When you're looking at a number that large, you have to be concerned about the carriers that are bidding on it. And what you don't want is the next guy to buy the business, and then the following year they get you for 10, 12, 15%. It'll look great the first year.
It's attractive.
Because what happens is you get into a bunch of disruption for the employees. The great thing this year that you guys found was the fact that we didn't have to change doctors.
Right.
Which is a huge disruption for families. So that's great. It really is a win-win. And the fact that we're able to roll the percentage up into the savings And it's a win-win for the town, it really is, so. The property and casualty, though, should come back to the insurance committee for review. That market is starting to soften a little bit on the commercial side, government side, so I think.
We negotiated, and we actually got a flat rate for the next 2 years.
Same broker?
Yes.
Yep.
And then at the end of the 2 years, we plan to go out to market. Yeah. One of the challenges when we looked at it was being a coastal community. There, there's only a few large companies out there that take on the insurance.
Yeah, and the same thing applies there, too. You don't want the disruption. You want to show
Right.
that you're loyal to the program, and you get a smaller increase where you might get a destabilizing increase 1 year if you're moving it around all the time. Yeah, good.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Good job, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, next in your packet, item F, page 90. All this is, it's the same Jen Miller, who we are hiring for the Environmental Affairs Director position. She needed an extra week before she could start. So this one page is just acknowledging that she will begin here in Dartmouth on May 18th, 2026.
Do you need a vote?
Yes.
Motion to amend the date in the contract.
Motion made by Mr. O'Neill to amend the contract, seconded by Mr. Silva. All in favor?
Aye.
And we will pass that down. So we will get her on board a week later. All right, next, kind of what we've all been thinking about is Cody's done some digging to get information on where we were with the old police station property. As some of you know, this will be new, old information for you, but for some it could be new. And the important piece is looking at all the things that have been done already to date. So, Cody, if you could take us through the next few pages.
Yes, so as you are all aware, the old police station closed some time ago. We had temporary police station put up in the parking lot behind there while the new police station was being constructed. The station was constructed as part of that. It did not include the demolition of the old police station. And so in 2019, this board authorized a police station reuse committee. You're fortunate enough that Mr. Silva actually served on that committee then.
One meeting.
And you were in the record.
And so, this has been ongoing. In 2020, I believe it was 2021, town meeting did approve the funds to demolish the police station. Administration at that time worked to go through the process. There was first the underground storage tank in the back needed to be removed, technically through the environmental process. That took quite some time. And then the town began solicitation for the actual demolition. At that point, as you're likely aware, the Historical Commission, a demo permit was applied for. Historical Commission denied that permit. Council came in and provided you all some updates on the legality of that and the board's ability to continue forward. It's kind of been on hold for quite some time. There's the article that essentially, in this town meeting, is looking to do a reuse committee, although it did exist in 2019. I provided you some of the meeting minutes from those meetings. I couldn't find the final recommendation. However, I did read that the final recommendation was that there was no other use. However, I mean, Mr. Silva was on it. I was not, but I certainly shared the minutes with you. We have applied for a couple of grants to assess the building through MassWorks and Mass Development. We have not successfully gotten those grants. At a subsequent town meeting, there was an article for the potential sale of the property that was indefinitely postponed. Since then, as this board is aware, we've been spending I think we've spent $20,000 just this year on fire alarm systems because we weren't in compliance. Technically, it's still a building, and so we had to get the fire alarm up and running. We were able to prevent having to undergo significant additional cost by not allowing the police department to train in there. That's a vote that this board made, and essentially, I think you see it's been talked about for quite some time. The board needs to work towards making a decision of what we're going to do with the property, because it is costing us money. EPA is still using the back parking lot for the remediation project, but whatever is decided is certainly going to take some time. If the decision is to continue the pursuit of demolition, I can assure you that the funds appropriated in 2021 are not enough at this time to cover the demolition, so that would require an additional appropriation, certainly not at this town meeting, but likely at the fall town meeting. Without a authorization from town meeting to sell the property, I do not feel comfortable in us soliciting bids, right, for us to sell the property, because we don't have authorization to sell the property. We could certainly, I guess, ask around unofficially, but to put out a full procurement without authorization to actually sell the property doesn't really sit well, because we don't have authorization to do so. So I try to compile as much information as possible. You have the initial appraisal report that was done in 2017. You have the floor plans of the building. You have the meeting minutes. The group at the time was made up of the town administrator, director of development, planning director, building commissioner, and a few members of the public. That's where we stand. I provided the both town meeting votes, the $480,000 that was approved for the demolition, and then the indefinite postponement of the sale of the property.
In between the indefinite postponement and prior to, we had the Historic Commission came before our board. We had members of the public, members of the Police Station Use Review Committee also came to talk about the fact that they had been for the demolition and wanted to know why that wasn't going forward. We had talked to Mass Housing about looking at, is it possible to convert the old police station into apartments? And basically they came back and just felt that the renovation would outweigh the benefit. So we're in nowhere land.
Yeah, we did, the board did also approve the use of ARPA funds to acquire the residential property that directly abuts this. It tries to make that, that kind of parcel more wholesome, and as it connects to the DYAA parcel. One thing I would ask the board also to consider is we do not, while this isn't a large parcel, we do not own a lot of developable land as a town. And so while it's certainly not big enough for us to, build a school on or something, our developable land is limited essentially to this parcel. We own a parcel up on basically the corner of Reed Road and Route 6, that some of it may be developable, and beyond that, that is pretty much it, other than school property.
Ms. Brooks?
Yes, Mr. Talabon.
My recollection, why it went to town meeting to try to sell the property, because at the time there was a move to spend money, to do an evaluation of a plan of some kind and spend money. The idea was to try to let the marketplace decide. If someone wanted to buy it, fine, and therefore the town would be out of the development business. I think there was an issue, as I recall, about the language of the article itself, and there's some confusion about it, and it went nowhere at town meeting because of that confusion. That's how I recall it. And it was, all of a sudden, it was done. It was one of those, the last article in the afternoon, and it voted, see you later, and next thing you know, town meeting was over and the place scattered. So my feeling still is the same. I don't think there's a need to spend any money to try to decide what we should do with it And I don't think that we should be in the development business, but if there's someone out there who wants to, we should try to find that out through that process. I also think with the EPA project back there, until that's really got some daylight as to when it's going to be done, I don't see a whole lot of rush to do much with that property, with that being still there for whatever the distant future is going to be. But there is a population out there just want to take it down. I don't think that's necessary because we still certainly ought to find out, if we can, down the road, if it's a buildable lot by some commercial developer who wants to give it a try. And find that out. If that's not the case, and then we take a different tack. That's how I recall the additional sequence of events.
We anticipate EPA may need the property through 2029.
What was that?
We anticipate EPA may need the property through 2029.
29.
29.
Wow.
And, one of the other things, and this would have to be ironed out if the board wanted to move forward and town meeting approved the sale, the radio tower, that is still very much in use.
Yep.
And very much a priority for us. Also, it's technically one lot where the DCTV building is, and so we would have to go through an A&R process to split that, because we're not looking to get rid of the DCTV building. We're investing a lot of money in that.
No, we are.
So it's my view that as long as EPA is there, which is another 3 years, it doesn't seem prudent to do anything with it until we have that finalized. But on the other hand, we're going to be paying X amount of dollars a year to just keep it afloat and keep it there. But in terms of all this activity and discussion, if they're going to be there that long, or close to it, shouldn't we put some kind of just a moratorium on the whole project until we know more? What good would it be to do anything until we know more in terms of its how long they're going to be there?
Do we know what the cost would be to maintain it? Not maintain it, but to
Keep it, yeah.
keep it. I don't believe, and you'll correct me, that we have done everything we needed to do that was recommended by the fire chief.
We have at this point done everything we needed to meet code.
To meet code.
We needed to. That was we were in violation. The fire chief was gracious enough to work with us to not accumulate fines, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things, once we got in there, we just kept on finding issues, connectivity issues, all issues with the alarm. So we've done everything needed for essentially a building that is not occupied. But it's still, we have to keep up with the fire alarm system. We have to pay the monitoring cost. Because the building isn't hooked up, we basically are paying for a Starlink internet connection. So there's costs associated in the tens of thousands of dollars range. Then that's if sensors don't go wrong. So we've had some sensors that have failed and have had to be replaced. It's up and running now, so the goal, hopefully, over the next year or two, that we don't have significant additional costs. But you're in the range of, I'd say, on average, $10,000 to $30,000 a year that we are spending to. We weren't spending that, but we're required to keep up with code. We're no different than a private property owner that has to follow fire code.
When was the estimate? That was 2019 to demolish it?
To demolish, that was 2020, I think is what it was.
It was FY21 CIP recommendation, $480,000.
So if we were throwing a dart against the wall, it'd be probably another 30%, 20 to 30% on top of that.
Probably. I mean, the good thing is that included the removal of the underground storage tank, which is significant cost, and that is done. The underground storage tank is removed. That process is complete. There also had to be a hazardous material assessment of the building. That was complete. There need to be a new one. I don't know what the time frame on those is, but the tank is out, which is good.
So of the $480,000 that was appropriated, some of it's been spent?
Yeah, some of it has been spent. If you give me 1 minute, I can tell you exactly what's left.
That may absorb some of the inflation cost.
It really is just an odd layout, and you've got wetlands involved over there, or at least flood zones, and it's not an easy commercial transfer project without substantial amount.
Can we agree that as long as the EPA is there,
Yeah.
we need a moratorium on anything to do with the place?
I agree with that, Dave, for sure. I mean, we can't really do much with it until we're clear. And they clean up and they're out of there completely.
I mean, someone's going to buy
Unless we were
that
going
and
to
develop it.
demolish it. Unless we decided, unless we were going to demolish it.
Right.
Then that can happen. But if we're thinking that we need to somehow reuse it, or, then we have to, or see if someone is interested in purchasing the lot to redo, then I can see that we have to wait until EPA is gone.
I mean, the thought that's just going through my head is what, one, we've got the EPA that is using part of the property, what's sort of the rush to get rid of this? I think the original rush was that there was big plans for a recreation center, and this was going to be the parking lot for it. It doesn't feel like we're rushing to build that recreation center anytime soon. So what's the point of spending upwards of $624,000 adjusted for inflation, which includes an additional appropriation just to take down a building
I
that's
think
going to sit there?
The rush was not to take it down. The rush was to keep it up, and therefore rush to find ways to keep it up and sell it or develop it.
No, I'm just going to the way back, like
Oh.
back in the reuse committee days in 2020. The whole idea in that committee was that this was going to be a parking lot for a recreation center. So if that's not something that is on the front burner of our long-term capital plan, we could spend $20,000 a year for 31 years and not do anything with it. You know what I mean? So maybe we spend this time where the EPA is using it to try to actually come up with a plan on what is the best course of action for this property that we own. Is it the best course of action to actually demolish it? Or is it a best course of action to sell it for $1 to a developer that'll demolish it on their own dime? I don't know. I think it could use a little bit more thought at this point. If the original plan was
But then you're
previously,
restricted by town meeting rules that we can't even go shopping it around because we're not able to do that without town meeting approval.
yeah, and I think part of that was like you said, the confusion of the language and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I think having a solid actual plan that's updated for today's long-term
Problem with
capital
town
planning.
meeting warrants, you send them out to the state and they come back in a different language, they're not with the intent. And I think that's sort of happened to us in that language. Because you agree with that, Cody?
I wasn't part of that process, so I
But
don't
I
know
mean,
exactly what.
that process, I mean, you send out language and sometimes it comes back and it's more confusing and not accurate because they feel that that's what the legal language should be. I've seen that happen.
Yeah, it definitely can be. We try to proactively work with council to make sure that doesn't happen. And so I think if the board, whatever decision the board makes, whether it's now or in 3 years, 5 years, we'll make sure that the language presented to town meeting will accomplish what the board is looking to
You have an
accomplish.
opinion, Cody? May I
I
ask?
mean, this is something that the board, I think, there's pros and cons to both. Nate brings up good points on the cost. There, you can look at it also that you may spend $20,000 a year and then still have to spend $1.2 million at that point to demo it. So there's pros and cons to it. It's really a policy decision.
I think it just, like, what I would like to personally see is what is the plan for the property? Like, before we go about spending upwards of $750,000 in demolishing this building, what's the plan? Like, why are we demolishing it? Why are we spending that money? What's the purpose behind it? Is it to create greenfield or developable space for us as a community? What is the purpose of spending that money?
The plan could be not to demolish it, but to have someone buy it and develop it, a private contractor. But how do you get to that? And that's the problem, because that path is pretty murky.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people in town that want to keep that building up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you run into that,
For sure.
well, I've run into that buzzsaw. And so going forward, you've got maintenance expense, you've got an attractive nuisance over there, which lends itself to liability on the town side if we're not monitoring that property well enough and kids get in there and do something stupid, and they get hurt, it's going to come back to the deepest pockets, which is us. I don't even know if we're insuring that place. Are we we've got it on the liability side.
I believe we do on the liability side, not on the property side.
Okay, all right.
We have it on the liability side. I'll have to confirm the property, I shouldn't say.
Yeah,
it
so
went
you've got
on.
essentially a vacant policy, which is probably the highest level of liability.
You also have the deed with the tower and the DCTV on top of the place.
Right.
And you think you can easily separate it and sell it. That's not going to be a simple process either.
Yeah.
I mean, is it a crazy idea to, if we're thinking of not doing anything until such time as the EPA has abandoned or completed their work there, is it a crazy idea if there's a group of people in the community that want to figure something out, can we just empower them to go do some research? And
Well, that's, in essence, that's what the
that's what they're asking for.
town meeting, that's what the
They're having
citizens
challenges in
petition-
getting that. Is there a way for us as a select board to ask?
You did it previously. The board did it previously. It's a subcommittee of the select board. I will work to get whatever the board likes done. I can tell you, it is not going to be on my priority list. We have a lot going on. I'm one person, and I'm
Yeah.
working 80 hours a week, and until we get an assistant, it's not going to be a priority. Just being very honest with the board.
Could I say at this point that we put this table list until the fall and revisit it again? I don't know what's going to happen with town meeting and that warrant, but, article, but as far as we are concerned, should we just table this and reopen the discussion? Maybe when it becomes a little more important, or if at all, and maybe we even get a little insight into the EPA schedule at that point.
Well, you've got a warrant item that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I will let you know the legalese of that prior to your next
Okay.
meeting. The board could entertain at that point, creating another, subcommittee, and we could certainly recruit for that committee over the summer with the goal of getting back up and going in the fall.
If it were to pass town meeting? If it,
Well, no, I mean, if council were to deem it out of order, and
okay.
it not pass, the select board has every right to create a subcommittee, like the board did in 2019,
Okay.
to create a reuse committee. So if that's the case, you could create the committee. It would be I think, a similar charge to what was in 2019. We could recruit members over the summer, and then I think that would give us time to really work on it over the fall and through the winter.
it's safe to say demolishing it is not in the near term at all.
If that's what the board likes. If the board wants to demolish it, we will move forward with, the demolition, process, but whatever the board likes to do.
I don't think we've truly vetted the reconstitution of this building. So, I would think that with the EPA still there, we have a clear reason to table. Couple of items coming up. We'll discuss the legal side of the warrant piece that's coming up, and then maybe repackage this thing for a meeting for final determination at a future town meeting.
Yep.
Something has to be done with it. I mean, we've looked at residential. We're not in the construction business. We're not in the redevelopment business, really. We've been up to Volk to talk to them about some kind of incubator with residential aspect to it. There was no uptake there. Historic, all of that side of it. We need to get to a point and get the language concise enough that we can go to a town meeting, get a final determination, and move forward. My concern is that we've got the EPA, that's number one. Number two is we've got a recurring expense there,
Yep.
which we're not in the business of paying, throwing good money after bad. And then we've got an attractive nuisance on our hands.
Safety issue, yeah.
So,
In a deed issue, a serious deed issue.
yeah.
Well, if you look at the meeting minutes from the group that was formed, and all we have is June 11th, 2019, and September 17th, 2019, I have to assume that there were other meetings as well. And I believe when Mr. Mickelson was on the select board, he mentioned being a part of it, and his name is not on either one of these. But that group seemed to have talked about everything that we're mentioning tonight, including they have a list of all the reuse options. So I do think
Rec center.
we do have some history of what was
Yeah,
discussed. I mean, they have a non-negotiable, the antenna cannot be relocated. Subdivide lot to create separate parcel for DCTV. So,
Yep.
I mean, they covered a lot of it. So it's entirely possible, the fact that we are here where we are, that after
7 years.
town meeting, we can do much of what was done previously and see where that leads us. To me, with an end goal of June 2020, when is that? 2028? No, 2027. June 20, working backwards. Make a decision by June 2027.
Town meeting.
Town meeting. And I'm not saying make a decision of what we're going to talk about at town meeting,
Right.
about this particular building.
The decision is,
Even if it's, because of EPA, although we're talking about it, we are not going to move on anything until,
you're saying is we
That's done.
have something prepared for 2027 Springtown meeting, based on all the research and stuff we do.
right.
I think that's a fair.
So this was good information.
Yep.
I don't think we have to do anything right now other than read through it again at our leisure. And we'll talk more May 11th. What, Mr. McDonald, did you have something?
I'm just wondering if it's prudent at this time to ask town council to start looking into severing the DCTV portion out of that parcel. And at least that can be taken care of right away, or technically right away within the next, calendar year or whatever.
Yeah, we can work with DPW and council to get those plans drawn up and have planning board approved.
They still use that tower, right? The police?
Oh, yes, yeah.
You can move it, there's no problem.
You can keep that tower as part of the parcel for DCTV, and it wouldn't make a difference. You don't need two separate. All you need is just one. There's enough pork chop and hack up lots in this town. What's one more?
One A&R and you're done.
Okay, let's go to page 163 in your packet. Our item is the review of the town administrator's evaluation process, and what Cody did is he took the town administrator goals that we had determined last November, and he gave us an update on where he is in these. So Cody, I'm going to have you discuss that.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe that I'm coming up on a year in this position. I started early July, and so we're ending April. So with that, my contract requires an annual performance evaluation, and I think I want to make sure we're all on the same page of what that process will look like. And I also don't want it to be rushed, hence why we're, I think, starting to talk about it now. I want the board to be able to have ample time. I value all of your feedback. As you know, I seek your feedback often to make sure that I'm meeting your requirements. And so I think the goals that we put together for the town administrator obviously directly align with the goals of the select board. We put together this document, which is hopefully helpful in showing you what those goals are that the board previously agreed on. And then I provided status updates essentially as of last week on each of those items. And so you have that. I think it's a helpful tool as you go through my evaluation. I also attached a draft evaluation form. And so you'll notice the evaluation, so the goals are broken up into 4 different categories, right? Town efficiency, service delivery, communication visibility, and financial health. And so each one of those is a category in the performance evaluation. Within the goals themselves, they're the action items, which are what I provided progress updates on. You will evaluate my performance on the overarching category, right? And then within that, there's essentially a rating of 1 to 4 for each category, and then I value as much written feedback that you're able to provide. So there's boxes for each of the written feedback. And then my performance is also evaluated on general topics, productivity and thoroughness, and there's several different criteria: communication and personal skills, leadership and managerial skills, and then a final summary. The way that this will work is I conduct a self-evaluation, and so that self-evaluation I will get out to the board within the first or second week of May. At that point, that hopefully between that self-evaluation and the updates that I provided on each of those goals, it gives you enough information to conduct a thorough review. I'm more than happy to meet with anyone one-on-one if you'd like to meet and get more information. You independently will fill in this evaluation. You will then have to send it to one member. Typically, that would be the chair. In the past, the executive assistant in the office is also able to assist. It is compiled into one document. Essentially, they're averaged out. And then that is the final evaluation of the board, which we will discuss at a meeting. And so the reason it gets compiled from one member is if it's all the members, technically that's a deliberation, and it's a violation of the open meeting law. And so you will get the final copy at the meeting where it's discussed, and we'll discuss about the evaluation process as a whole.
That sounds very much like how we've done it
We'll do it handwritten?
before.
We'll do it handwritten?
That's fine.
Yeah,
It
whatever
can
your
come to me
preference.
handwritten. What I'm going to ask for is for Melanie to send just this piece.
Yes, she can send it in a Word document, so if anyone prefers
So
to do it.
some people may want to just
Oh.
do it
Oh, so it can
on
be,
the computer, right? But we'll take it out of this, which is a PDF.
Okay.
And we'll have Melanie send it to us separately. And so if Cody's going to do his self-evaluation in May, then we will look at, let's see, for final
Do it after
warrant,
town-
that's
after town meeting?
May.
Yeah, we
That's
could
what
do
I'm
the
thinking
second meeting
after.
in June,
Yeah. So that
22nd.
is the 22nd. So I will ask that everyone get it to me by June 5th.
when will you send it out?
Melanie can
We'll
send
get
it
it out
out,
next week, or later this week, I'm sorry, not next week.
and then that will give it a week to turn it around and get it ready to come back to us for
Yeah, review and
executive
discussion.
session on the 22nd.
Yep.
Great.
And then, so the point tonight really is if there's any discussion on the process, if you have any discussion or feedback on the evaluation form itself and the process that we're looking to follow, so now would be the time for us to discuss it, so we're on the same page as far as process, and then we'll go through the actual evaluation in the coming months.
So your status notes are complete, Cody?
Yeah, those are up to date as of Thursday, as of last Thursday.
Very good.
I think it would just be helpful when we're, to compile this, that if anyone has, specific instances that they want to reference within the comments, that would be, wherever it is on the scale, just to back up
Yeah,
the numbers.
The comments are very helpful, so the compiled document usually has all of your comments, your individual comments. It doesn't say which board member they're from. But obviously, the comments do a lot more for me in assessing my performance than a number.
So you'll cut and paste the comments onto the master document. Very good.
All right, thank you. All right. Town administrator update.
Yes, lots going on in the past couple weeks. So I want to give an update on Citizens Academy. We are halfway through the Citizens Academy. I'm happy to share that it's actually been more successful than I had anticipated. And I think not only the group of residents are getting a lot from it, but I'm getting overwhelmingly positive feedback from our department heads. A lot of department heads, which were not too thrilled about it, that I was requiring this, have come up to me afterwards and said, "Oh wow, that was actually great. I'm really glad you made me do that." And so it's been good. I would encourage if there's it's on Wednesday evening, 6 to 7:30, 8 o'clock usually. If any board members would like to attend a session, just shoot me a text. I'd love to have you there. Heidi has attended 1 or 2 sessions, and I think
When is the next one?
Wednesday. Yep, Wednesday. So,
This one is Wednesday, 6 to 8 at North Branch.
6:15 this Wednesday.
6:15.
I would just ask you, let me know, because I don't want necessarily multiple members of the board to be there, because I don't want to take away from what the departments are doing. But if a single member of the board wants to be there to observe, I think it's Heidi can give you a firsthand account. I think it's really a great experience.
Since you're coming up to my neck of the woods,
Good idea. He'll be there.
and I'll be going home to a softball game, I can swing in.
Wednesday, 6:15, we'll see you there.
It's, I mean, I've just sat in the back. It's very well organized. Now everyone has binders and they're getting information. And I've attended too. And the department heads, I mean, we're going to be doing something, having them come in. So I don't want to, break their thunder when they come in. But there's been some aha moments, and I've been doing this for a while and lived in town for a while longer. And there's been some things that I, didn't know what was going on.
It's always aha moments.
Yeah, so it's been great. And what's really nice about this, the makeup of the Citizens Academy, is it's not our usual suspects. It's not people that we see at our meetings, or it's mostly people I've never seen before. They're more alive than our current audience.
Like the ghost of Mr.
But it's great. There's people that have lived here forever, and there's people that are new to Dartmouth and wanted to know what's going on. They have really good questions. So it's been great. But I have attended a couple, and I certainly encourage each of you as the weeks progress.
So this week is regulatory services at the North Branch Library. So your Board of Health, Conservation, Building, Town Clerk is going this week too. And then next week, we're going to be back here at Town Hall for financial services. And then we are going DPW. We're going to have that down at the Highway Garage, and all divisions are going to present. And then we have education night. We haven't figured out which school, but we're going to have that at the school. And our superintendent, assistant superintendent, and also the superintendent of Greater New Bedford Folk are going to present that night. So it's been good. I mean, it already, the impact is clear, because the first night was a general government administrative kind of overview that I gave. And we talked about town meeting and how you can get involved. And that was right before the election. And so the class after the election actually had 2 members of the class come up and say, I took what you said, I wrote my name in on the ballot for town meeting member, and I was notified that I got elected. So, I mean, people are at least getting involved and you're paying attention. So, I mean, that in itself, it's clearly doing more than we could have hoped. DPW board expansion, that was voted positively at the election. So we are going to advertise those 2 openings probably the first week of May. That'll close at the end of May, and then the board will look to make an appointment, probably your second meeting in June, or appointments, I should say, second meeting in June for the July 1 start.
Does that ballot question have to go before the AG for approval?
The town meeting language already went before the AG. Yeah. So we're good there. We have a budget advisory group meeting tomorrow afternoon or evening at 4 p.m. We're doing that to try to allow for more feedback from the community. So we have been having them in the mornings, but we've been working on a lot. We have a draft report that the select board will be seeing in the coming months that we're going to review tomorrow. And so that's at 4 o'clock here at Town Hall. I want to give a shout out to Tim Barber and the DPW team. A few town projects that have been in the works for quite some time are finally getting traction. If you notice, the parking lot behind here, the bollards for the light post are in, and we're almost ready for paving, and so we have the contractor is going to get out here for paving this spring. That'll be done, and then it's going to open up this parking lot, because all sports are going to be required to park there, and all town vehicles are going to be required to park there. So the parking lot up here and up front will be solely for visitors and employees' personal vehicles. So that'll be great to get done. And also, very thankful for Tim and his team. The Round Hill roadway, which has been a nightmare for quite some time, is going to get some attention this spring, where we're going to be at least resurfacing that really bad area, down at the end there where it floods. It's a short-term solution. It needs some serious work down there, likely to the tune of over $1 million. but it's a priority that we at least address that, and Tim and
Probably a
Becky
couple
have
of
been-
cars in that hole down there.
Yeah, you're probably right. And so DPW has been great. We've done test pits out there, working with conservation to make sure we're following the rules. And yeah, very excited. We're going to get that done this spring. So hopefully when everyone gets out to the beach this summer, they'll have a little more, not such a wild ride down there. Also want to share that the Veteran Services agent will be relocating back to Town Hall as of this Monday. He was at Town Hall previously, moved over to the COA. We've had several discussions, operational needs, and we found it to be best that he come back to Town Hall. He's going to be on the second floor, right next to our IT department. So you come in the door closest to the middle school, you go up those stairs, and he's going to be right there, essentially. So we're excited to have Matt back here. Speaking of Veterans Affairs, we have the flag project Matt had previously let you guys know about. That is in full swing. We are putting together the final proposal, and electrician's been coming out, and we're hoping to get that done with DPW's assistance for the Purple Heart Day and ceremony, where Dartmouth will become a Purple
Nice.
Heart community officially in early August, but more to come on that. Let's see. The other thing is, in light of transparency efforts, I'm going to be sending a memorandum out to all boards and committees that they start recording their meetings. For the most part, boards and committees record. I think the select board has kind of made that known. There are boards outside of the select board's jurisdiction that are elected, but I think, in transparency efforts, there's no reason why we shouldn't be. DCTV is great, and people need to know what's going on, particularly, I think it's important for all boards and committees, but for elected boards and committees, how do our residents know what they're voting for if there's no record of the board or committee? So you will see that coming from my office in the next week or two. And then just a reminder, we have our first pre-town meeting on May 27th. We're working with the school department to figure out which school it'll be at. And so if the board is available, I would encourage the board to be available to attend.
That'd be an issue if more than 3 of us show up? That's not
We'll post it. Yeah, we'll post it as a meeting. So just let me know. Ideally, I hope the board can make it as a whole, but if not, as many members as possible.
Great.
Same with the finance committee, which we will be inviting. We're going to invite all the department heads. The goal really is to get people prepared for town meeting, allow them to ask questions. Not that they can't ask questions at town meeting, but we want a town meeting to go as efficiently and effectively as possible. B, sometimes questions come up at town meeting where I don't have the answer. We try to prepare for everything, but there are ultimately going to be questions where we don't know. And if it comes up on the 27th, I can guarantee you that I'll get you an answer prior to town meeting, which is, I think, a good thing. Then you can vote on the facts. So we're really excited to do that. Also excited that we had a department head meeting last month that, at least for the first time that I'm aware of, every department head was there, all 3 fire chiefs were there, and our emergency management director were there. So really good collaboration. We were excited to have that there. And I'll end with, last month, the Dartmouth Police Department put out a hiring request, a flyer. So we're part of the hybrid program for civil service. It's a newer program which allows us to essentially hire half of our staff through the non-civil service process. As you know, we've had some challenges with the civil service process. And the good news is people still want to be Dartmouth police officers because we had over 60 applicants.
Nice.
We had over 10 laterals that were applied to come to the Dartmouth Police Department. And, the chief and his team are going through that process. But we feel very good with some of these candidates, and I would actually anticipate in the next month or two you will have several candidates for you to consider as conditional appointments.
Laterals, that's great.
A number of them are laterals, which it's great because they can jump in.
Right.
Much lower FTO period. We're going to be down about 10 officers as of July 1st. We're down about 8 right now. And so if we can even build half of that in the next couple months, and like I said, they're beyond the 10 or so laterals, there were about 40, of your just traditional candidates. They may be corrections officers, people that would still have to go through the process. But, we haven't vetted those fully yet, but it looks, you have 40 applicants, you'd hope that we can get at least a
consider some
couple good
part-time
ones
work
out.
myself.
And then the new civil service list will be coming out soon, and we'll try to recruit off of that as well. And that is it for my update.
Beautiful.
Oof, all right.
I I do, proposed town projects, you do have a printout in front of you. As I've done in the past, I'll highlight the changes since the last time we went over this. I'm looking at the one that's highlighted in yellow first. This is your residential, the large-scale residential projects. So this consists of the preserve on Route 6, which was the 40B that was approved some time ago. The only update I have for that is the petitioner disagrees with our assessment of building permit fees. So building, we've updated our building permit fees a number of times since 2018. As you know, prior to us updating them in 2018 to 2019, we hadn't updated our fees in over 10 years, and we're really out of whack. The petitioner applied for building permits last year, was granted those building permits, paid the fee at that time, and they recently have filed basically to the ZBA for a change that they feel like they should pay the fees in effect when they applied for their permit back in 2017, 2018. Council, our 40B council has reviewed this, and will be sharing an opinion. They made the request to me initially, and I denied the request because, speaking with council, we feel building permit fees are not held to the same standard as a sewer connection fee. They did request the sewer connection fees be decreased, and the law is on their side for that, and so we did have to decrease that to when they applied. But building permit fees are in a different category. So that is going to be on for the next ZBA meeting on Thursday, and special counsel will be there to advise the Zoning Board of Appeals at that time. So not really an update as the development, but I think an update that the board should certainly be aware of, and that will be addressed at the meeting on Thursday. Delano Apartments is still under construction. The next one is Shorebrook Farms, is the 40B application on Old Westport Road. The public hearing is going to be is on this Thursday. They granted an extension for the public hearing through May 14th. So we'll have more of an update on the April 30th meeting. The residents at Hawthorne, the public hearing was closed, and there is a meeting scheduled on May 21st, which we anticipate the Zoning Board of Appeals will grant a decision at that meeting. 813 State Road, this is the 15 units, which is one house and 7 duplexes for senior living. That's going through the process. Stantec, our water and sewer consultant, is reviewing capacity to make sure we have the pump station capacity for those 15 units, so that's ongoing. The only other thing is 200 Cross Road. This was the, I had mentioned this last time, the construction of 9-unit townhouse. The applicant submitted for a denial letter. The denial letter has not been submitted yet because they need to submit a lot more documentation before the building commissioner can issue a denial letter. So the applicant's aware of that, and we're awaiting those final documents. On to the next page. This is commercial development, and you have a few different updates here. Zero State Road is the Audi Volkswagen dealership. They've applied for a site plan review, and they're working with the planning board, and they are seeking a special permit for the required reduction in parking. Mr. Giosa talked about that actually this evening. That's one of those big areas where there's a lot of parking required, so they're working through that process. The proposed masonry business at 576 Fons Corner Road withdrew their Zoning Board of Appeals application without prejudice. They're not going to continue with that. 411 Fons Corner Road, this is the New England Farms gas station and convenience store. The site plan review was submitted March 23rd, and they're working with planning board and awaiting some revised plans and working with DPW, so that's still in the process. And the other items haven't been updated. Certificate of occupancies was issued for 610 State Road.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Just a few things going on. All right, new business, or rather old business, 40B update. I think you included it within what we just talked
40B
about.
update, we gave the dates for that, so the next meeting will be on Thursday. Bliss Corner, we are in settlement discussions with the EPA, as we've talked about in executive session. I can't necessarily just share much more than that, but I can say we feel pretty good that this will be coming to a close in the near future, and as soon as we're able to share any updates publicly, we will do that. As far as Lake Nokichoke, I have no new updates. Municipal broadband, Ripple Fiber will be in at your next meeting, 6 p.m. on the 11th, to share what they're thinking for municipal fiber in Dartmouth.
All right. We don't have any minutes this week, so I'll go next to Select Board updates. Mr. McDonald?
I'm fine.
All set. Mr. O'Neill?
All set.
All
Mr.
set.
Silva, all set. Mr. Tattelbaum?
I just want to say that I continue to be impressed with the kind of handle that Cody has on what's going on. There's a mountain of progress and information, and keeping us all in the town informed is damned impressive, and it's, thank you for the work you're doing, Cody. Keep it up.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tattelbaum. I have nothing. We're coming to the end of April. May, just looking ahead to see what is, as you said, there's a couple of meetings. Our next meeting is scheduled for, before our next meeting, on Monday, May 4th, and it's been well publicized on social media. There's going to be the Slocum River report on the data on that, and that's going to be at Round the Bend Farm at 6 o'clock.
I'll be there for sure.
So that's a little bit different.
Fourth be with you.
We will be inviting the full Water Quality Advisory Committee to that.
Okay. So our next meeting is on Monday, May 11th. So we have a little bit of time before then. I know, but it sounds so far away. May.
The only meeting in May.
Let me just pretend. All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald makes a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.